Hello, friend. Today's question is a bit unusual and you may think it is nonsense, but what if the werewolves you know so well actually exist and live among us humans, and we just don't know about it? Now tell me where you are in the world and what time it is for you, and if you are even slightly surprised or interested by this question, please support me with a like, a comment and a subscription, and we'll get started. The night opens like a velvet book, and the ink of its first line is the breath of pines beyond the town. Lamps soften to halos along empty streets. Windows hold golden ponds where people float in their small rooms, drifting towards sleep. Somewhere a train sighs, far and kind, and the moon lifts one pale shoulder above the roofs, as if reluctant to be seen. It is an old moon, worn smooth by stories, thin as a blade and gentle as a lullaby, and it lays the faintest silver across the rain-dark stones. In such hours the world remembers its older shape. The ground is not pavement but path. The alley is not a cut between walls but a seam where forests once stitched their shadows together. Dogs stir and then consider silence again, as if a forgotten command had brushed their ears. A clock on the town hall breathes out another note. Everything that turns more slowly. Even your name feels made of leaves. In such hours another nation wakes. Not a country with borders, but a society textured like fur rippling beneath the human city. Their steps are soft and their customs are older than the chimneys. Their law is weather and rumour, season and scent. They are careful because care is survival. Among us, within us, around us, a culture that has learned over centuries the long art of remaining unseen. Call them werewolves if you wish, though they call themselves by names that are winds and heartbeats, by kinship terms as patient as winter. The first story said they were curses stitched into people by jealous witches, or the punishment of a saint for a hunter's cruelty, or a pact with a moon that wanted to taste the earth. But there are older tellings where the change is not a disease but a returning, not a fall but a deep remembering of how to carry two ways of being at once. They pass the skill from aunt to niece, from mentor to stranger, from someone who was rescued to someone whose hands are ready to rescue. They learn how to mend a sleeve without tearing a map of belonging. At night they loosen their collars. They travel to the margins where the town thins into field, to the riverbank where reeds whisper, to the hill where a radio tower ticks like a needle. There, and in basements where old maps are pinned to concrete walls, and on rooftops where the city hum hangs like a warm cloak, they invite the moon a little closer. The change is not a violence but an opening. Bones listen, skin remembers. The second alphabet, older than tongues, writes itself beneath the first. They practice vanishing kindly, leaving warmth where footsteps would have cooled. Softly. Tonight we begin near the river, where a birch leans over black water and drops its coins of bark into the slow current. A woman waits there with her coat folded on her arm, her shoes tied together by their laces. Her name in the day is Marta, a florist who knows which flowers forgive winter and which ones keep a secret flame. She has a way of arranging stems that makes rooms breathe deeper. She brings bouquets to the hospice and the courthouse. She has learned the architecture of goodbyes. She was not born into the older nation. She found it the way some people find prayer, by accident that feels designed. On a winter evening many years ago, when the city was a diagram of frost, she walked home late from a wedding where she had woven a crown of rosemary for a nervous groom. In a doorway she found a dog with a wound like a small star pressing through its fur. She sat with it, not asking the price. She warmed it under her coat and carried it 3 blocks, her arms lit with ache, her breath a little fire. By the time she reached the clinic that never sleeps, the dog was not a dog, and the doorway was not a doorway, and her life had widened without breaking. Marta learned, slowly, with the patience of a river learning its stones. A scarf around her neck might mean one thing. The way she placed a broom after sweeping might mean another. She learned a greeting that begins with opening your hands to prove they are empty, and ends with lowering your gaze to the level of a heartbeat. She learned the recipe for broth that restores the body after returning, and she tasted the word for trust that is grown, not given, like time in poor soil. Now she stands under the birch, and listens with the bones inside her ears. Around her the river is a wide breath. Across the water the power station hums like a distant hive. The moon's thin blade is exact and forgiving. Shadows examine themselves and find new shapes. Marta sets her shoes down. She loosens the day from her shoulders like a shawl, and lets it hang upon a branch. The skin along her arms shivers not from cold but recognition. We might say that the change begins, but the truth is that it never stops. It thickens and thins like honey in weather. Her ribs widen to make room for an older lung. Her spine recalls a story it once told of running. Teeth translate themselves into a more practical dialect. But the eyes are faithful. They hold both languages at once and make them rhyme. From the path behind her comes a soft tread and a breath that respects distance. She does not turn. There is a courtesy to such nights, and it includes giving the other the dignity of finishing their travel into their chosen shape. When the tread reaches the edge of her attention, she speaks the old greeting with new lips. In the hush between words, the city seems to lean closer, as if listening to its own dream. The greeting lingers between them like the last warmth in a cup. The answer has the softness of breath shaped into meaning. Respectful as water moving around a stone, Oleg steps fully into the birch's pale circle. A man at this hour because the work ahead wants fingers and tools. By day he is a locksmith, reader of hinges and listener of tumblers, walking into the small crises of other lives with a satchel and a patient smile. By night he keeps older keys, the ways a body remembers another gate, the manners of shadow, the covenant of teeth that promise not to break the world they love. He inclines his head, not to the moon, but to the old law she carries in her ribs, and the old law nods back from inside her. They face the current like two commas in a sentence. The town forgot to finish. The power station hums. The reeds recite. There is business, there is always business. Even for those who imagine the hidden are nothing but wandering hungers. The hidden are schedulers, list makers, bringers of soup, 100 quiet tasks, each a stitch in the larger pelt that keeps the city warm. Tonight there are snares, a trail of them set with a cruelty that understands nothing of seasons. Oleg lays a folded map upon the birch-shadowed ground, its creases remembering other nights. The red pencil marks are small angry suns. Marta listens with the listening that happens in bones and in the small theatre of the nose. A metallic tang threads the dark, not the honest iron of bridges, but the bright wrongness of wire. She sees it as lines in the black, shallow cuts across the city's softer arteries. They have learned to mend without drawing attention, to untie traps and leave wildflowers growing from the places where harm nearly learned to speak. They move in a grammar of almosts, changing just enough to unmake trouble without waking fear. Feet choose the dust rather than the puddle. Hands leave a gate exactly as they found it. Eyes pass through rooms like patient weather. Origins, the elders say, are a weather rather than a date. In fjord dusk, men once held inside bearskins and called it holiness. In desert dawn, a grandmother rinsed blood from a boy's hair and whispered a name that was a paw print. On islands where stones stand like listeners, warriors trained their breathing until the earth borrowed their feet. In a northern monastery, a monk wrote the word for brother, with a flourish shaped like a tail, and smiled to himself, because secrets thrive best when watered with ordinary kindness. In crowded markets, in salt villages, in cities sewn together by rails, the story bent and bent again, but the hinge never broke. The change was not a fall but a returning, not a curse but a craft. By day they work where the city needs menders, locksmiths and florists, night nurses, tram operators, archivists who can smell mildew from history, bakers who know the patience of dough. Disguise is not a mask but a living. The surest way to vanish is to be helpful. They keep calendars, they learn the names of security guards, they adopt the tempo of stairs. At doors they practice being unremarkable. Their fur is a thought under the skin, sleeping in rows like fields in winter, ready to rise when the season asks. They belong to libraries and neighborhood chats and the long politeness of bus stops. They survive by belonging. Oleg's finger pauses above a mark near the warehouses. Here, he breathes, and the birch answers with a paper-dry rustle. Tiny circles on the map glow in imagination like coals beneath ash. Some human, somewhere, is curious about the second alphabet, about the paw that presses faintly into snow beside a sneaker's sole. Curiosity is a cousin to care, but it can learn brutality when fed by hunger for proof. Proof always tries to hold too hard. It hurts the thing it loves by insisting the heart stand still long enough to be measured. The moon, watching with her thin blade, has little patience for that kind of hand. We are not curses, Oleg murmurs, not quite aloud. We are a method. He smooths the paper with 2 fingers. We return borrowed strength to the world, and in exchange the world lets us keep 2 songs. Marta knows this as surely as she knows how long a peony will forgive a warm room. They move through streets the way a rumour moves when it is held by kind mouths. quietly averting panic, carrying the weight without naming it. Their justice is repair, their pride is discretion, their courage is time given, again and again to the places that fray. Early omens freckled the week. Twice the lamps on Birch Lane went dark when there was no storm, and a courier dog who belongs to no one refused to cross the square. The hospice windows showed a smear of breath at an hour when every bed was empty. On the courthouse steps the rosemary martyr had left yellowed overnight, though she had watered it with the care she gives to grief. In the subway a violinist drew a note that bent toward a howl and then reconsidered. Each was a pebble flicked toward a sleeping ripple. Each said, in its small language, "Attend." They set off along the path that runs like a vein behind the warehouses. Marta carries her shoes. The ground's cold speaks a language she trusts. Oleg walks with the steadiness of a man acquainted with locks that resist. There is a right to this kind of patrol. They walk as pairs to remind themselves that strength is never solitary. Conversation stays inside the chest, but between them passes a long old story about a farmer who dug a cistern and found a single silver hair coiled at the bottom like a question mark. How he covered it with a stone and slept well thereafter, having learned that not every answer should be pulled into the light. Near a loading dock, the first snare waits, a dark parenthesis between broken pallets. Oleg kneels without kneeling like prey. He takes the wire as a violinist takes a string. Marta stands guard with her eyes, which is to say she looks into places that are not quite places. The idea of a doorway, the thought of a shadow. The snare smells of mouse and fabric, and something clinical, sharp as antiseptic. Someone clever enough to blend wrong lessons. The wire is new, the knot is eager, it dreams of tightening. He undoes it as if apologizing. The wire loosens reluctantly, then with relief. They coil it and slip it into a sack that once held onions. Later they will lay such metal inside a circle of stones and ask the frost to teach it patience. A rat rustles nearby and thinks better of its evening. Somewhere a shutter taps. Not a warning, simply the house adjusting its dream. Far off the river turns a page and carries the sound away. Their work tonight is not glory, it is housekeeping. It is the quiet mathematics of harm reduced by one. Still the old stories stand behind them like tall relatives. 1,000 tongues call them by 1,000 names. Some prayers, some warnings. They have been kings in fur and beggars with bright eyes. They have been metaphors for hunger and for mercy. They have guarded children and frightened soldiers. They have buried their dead with paws and with hands. In each telling the moon is judge and witness, and the law underfoot is hospitality. Do not make a wound you cannot carry home. They turn again toward the river. Marta feels the night press a finger against her wrist as if counting. Somewhere across town a window opens, and the smell of frying onions climbs the darkness. Somewhere else a fox reconsiders a boulevard. The city shifts upon its own ribs. On the tower the red light blinks an even heartbeat. She thinks of the first dog she carried, of the star-shaped wound and the weight that made her stronger. She thinks of how many doors Oleg has opened with a kiss of metal, how often he has left a threshold safer than he found it. They will find more snares, that is certain. And there are other omens gathering like polite guests who arrive early and wait on the sidewalk. In the clinic that never sleeps, a new nurse has begun asking careful questions that are almost the right questions. In the park, a boy draws wolves at the edges of his homework and watches the moon as if remembering a promise. In the archives, the mildew smells different, like a page turned too soon. The river carries away the birch bark coins and brings back now and then a glitter too straight to be natural. They pause beneath the birch to drink from the bottle Marta keeps wrapped in cloth. Ulrich looks toward the far bank where the power station hums a song about heat. Someone is learning our footsteps, he says. It is not fear in his voice, but a weather report. The trick will be not to become smaller, but to become wiser. Disguise is a patience shared with trees, year after year wearing green commonness while the hidden rings remember fire, year after year offering shade, and in winter a truth of branch. When they part, it will be with the small touch of wrists that leaves no mark. For now they turn down river. A breeze moves the reeds in a direction the map does not permit, as if a larger breath were entering the city from the fields. The night keeps listening. The old law walks at their side, and far ahead, where the warehouses give way to gardens, and the soil is still warm from the day, something shifts in the dark as if testing the shape of its own curiosity. The shift in the dark carries itself like a rumour, not yet willing to name its subject. Marta feels the reeds stiffen as if listening to a word they have not heard before. Oleg narrows his gaze, though his eyes hold no suspicion, only the steady patience of a locksmith considering a lock of unfamiliar shape. They do not hurry. To hurry would be to answer a question before it is asked. Instead, they let the air move around them, feeling how its texture changes, how the scent of river, metal and soil arranges itself into a pattern that wants to be read. The hidden nation knows that omens arrive not with trumpets, but with pauses. The gardens ahead sleep under netting and straw, their soil carrying the warmth of the day like a memory that refuses to fade. Old scarecrows lean on their sticks, patient witnesses who have seen too much to be startled now. A dog barks once in the far distance, but it is the kind of bark that holds no teeth, only acknowledgement that the night has turned a page. Marta steps barefoot upon the loam and feels how it yields, how it carries both promise and fatigue. In that quiet yielding lies the heart of their craft. Strength is not domination but adjustment, the willingness to bend without breaking. She breathes this lesson, and the earth answers with a slow pulse. Oleg crouches beside a row of bean poles and finds another snare. This one is clumsier, as if set by hands impatient with detail but still dangerous. The wire gleams like a thought half hidden under conscience. He takes it gently, speaking to it with fingers that know locks and their sulky pride. The wire sighs into surrender. He coils it and places it in the onion sack, which is now heavier than before, a small archive of malice turned into scrap. The sack smells faintly of rust and vegetables, a mingling of harm and harvest. Marta touches his shoulder lightly, a signal that the air has shifted again. There is movement at the far end of the garden. Not human footsteps, not the scurry of fox or rat, but something that remembers both without belonging fully to either. The moon places her silver upon it, but the form stays reluctant, a brushstroke blurred before it dries. Marta lowers herself, the soil kissing her calves with its coolness. She knows the etiquette. Never chase, never corner. Instead, she listens. The shape pauses as if deciding whether to trust its own courage. The reeds hush themselves. The scarecrow tilts with the breeze as if nodding. Slowly, the figure resolves into a boy. He cannot be more than 12. His jacket hangs uneven on his thin frame, and his shoes are mismatched. His eyes are wide but not fearful, more like someone who has stumbled into a story and recognizes its scent. His breathing carries both human quickness and another rhythm beneath it. A rhythm older than lungs, older than names. Marta feels the echo in her own chest. Oleg sets the sack down carefully, the sound soft as a leaf folding into soil. They wait. Patience is a lantern that glows without flame. The boy takes 2 steps closer. His face shines with the raw bewilderment of someone whose body has just learnt a new word. Behind his lips, teeth stir as if uncertain whether to remain polite. The moon leans lower, making a cradle of light around him. He looks at Marta as though she were a mirror, showing him both what he fears and what he hopes to be. She answers with the old greeting, hands open, gaze lowered to the level of heartbeat. The boy trembles, then echoes the gesture with awkward honesty. The current of recognition leaps between them like lightning slowed into silk. This is no accident. Children do not simply arrive at midnight gardens unless guided by a force beyond streets and sleep. Marta senses the long hand of destiny, the old arithmetic of balance that ensures for every wound there is a healer waiting nearby. She recalls the dog she carried years ago, its weight a door that opened her life into another room. Now the boy stands before her like another threshold. His hair clings damp to his brow, his fingers twitch with unspent power, and the air around him tastes of iron and river water. He belongs already, though he does not yet know the vocabulary. Oleg speaks not with words but with the angle of his body, the way his shoulders relax as though placing no burden upon the child. In this silence the boy takes 1 step closer, then another. He is close enough now that Marta can see the shadow of fur trembling under his skin, a second alphabet struggling to write itself. She knows the ache of that first change, the confusion of carrying 2 shapes that do not yet trust one another. Compassion rises in her like sap in spring. She extends her hand slowly, palm up, offering no demand. The boy stares, then places his trembling fingers upon hers. Warmth passes between them, not merely heat but recognition, the acknowledgement of kin. The scarecrow tilts again, as if bearing witness. The reeds breathe out. Somewhere far down river, a fox decides to enter the city after all. The boy whispers something too low for language, a sound closer to howl than speech, and in that sound lies a whole lexicon of need. Marta closes her fingers gently around his hand, steadying him. Oleg picks up the sack of wires, heavier now with the weight of vigilance, and glances toward the horizon where the warehouses crouch like dark animals. The night is far from finished. Omens still walk the streets, disguised as accidents and coincidences. The boy belongs to a future not yet written, a page the city will one day read, but for now he is only breath and trembling, soil underfoot and moon overhead. Marta guides him softly toward the birch, each step an agreement that does not need words. Oleg follows, and the night, listening closely, prepares to unfold another secret just beyond the bend of the river. The birch stands as if it has been waiting centuries for this moment, its pale skin luminous under the blade of moonlight. Marta guides the boy toward its shadow, her hand still cradling his trembling fingers. The bark peels in soft curls, like paper notes left for those who know how to read. The child glances at the tree with eyes too wide for comfort, but not for wonder, and in them glimmers the raw awe of a spirit pulled between two worlds. He does not speak. His silence is a vessel, heavy and fragile, filled with questions that cannot yet find their way into words. Oleg sets the onion sack at the tree's base and kneels, his posture humble without submission. He presses his palm flat against the ground, a locksmith listening for tumblers hidden beneath the soil. What he feels is not metal but heartbeat, the pulse of the city, slow and deep, like a sleeper turning beneath blankets of stone and root. He closes his eyes, letting that rhythm guide his breath until it matches. For a moment the three of them, man, woman and boy, are no longer separate threads but a single weaving, one pattern stretched across ages. The boy shudders. His shoulders twitch as if an invisible hand tries to pull them wider. Fur flickers just beneath the skin, the way light flickers beneath water when a fish turns. His jaw clenches, then loosens with a crack like a seed splitting. The air grows heavy with a musk that is neither child nor beast, but something struggling to be both. Marta steadies him, her other hand pressing lightly against his back, as though reminding his body it is not alone in this labour. The moon tilts lower, her silver gaze more insistent, her ancient patience balanced by hunger to witness transformation. Around them the reeds fall quiet, their whispering stilled as if holding a breath. The scarecrow, tilted and weary, watches without judgment. Even the distant hum of the power station seems to soften, as though machines too are capable of reverence. Oleg begins to hum, a low sound deep in his chest, one of the older tones taught by elders who claim it calms the marrow. It is neither lullaby nor chant, but something in between, a sound designed for bones. The boy's trembling eases, not gone but steadied into rhythm. His breath slows, though each inhale is heavy with the weight of what is trying to emerge. This moment is older than all myths combined. In the sagas of the North, the first howling youth was said to tear apart chains with bare hands and leap into snow. In desert chronicles, a child of dusk once bent to drink from a spring and rose with eyes that mirrored jackals. In forest lore, it was a girl who woke among oak roots, her fingers crowned with claws that never harmed the trees. No matter the land or the name, the essence is the same. The young must learn that the second self is not a rival, but a companion. Those who fear it suffer. Those who accept it become whole. The boy's knees buckle. Marta lowers with him, letting him collapse into her arms without shame. His face presses against her shoulder, and she feels the damp of his sweat, the salt of fear and wonder. His teeth graze the fabric of her sleeve, not biting, only testing the idea of wildness. She whispers without words, her breath a rhythm for him to follow. Slowly his breathing syncs with hers. His body does not change further tonight. It halts in that liminal place where both truths wait. The fur recedes, the jaw eases, and he remains a boy again, fragile, shaking, and utterly exhausted. The moon's blade softens to a curved kindness, forgiving him the pause. Oleg leans closer, his voice as soft as the ground's breath. He is at the threshold, he murmurs, though his words carry the weight of prophecy. Once crossed, it cannot be undone. Marta nods, her hand brushing the boy's damp hair back from his forehead. She knows this. She lived this. Every werewolf, no matter their lineage or accident of discovery, must step through the same invisible door. To delay is possible, to retreat is not. The boy is already claimed by the hidden nation, even if he does not yet have its songs in his throat. From beyond the gardens comes a sound, not fox, not rat, not wind, a metallic scrape deliberate like iron against stone. Oleg rises in silence, his locksmith's body becoming the patient frame of a hunter. Marta holds the boy tighter, her heartbeat now a shield. The scrape repeats, nearer this time, carrying the scent of oil and cold ambition. Whoever set the snares is not content with traps left to wait. They prowl now, searching for what those wires could not catch. The night's gentleness thins, and even the birch's pale bark seems to lean closer, listening. The boy stirs at the sound, his half-changed senses pricking with unease. He lifts his head, eyes flashing briefly with that other light. For an instant, Marta sees not a frightened child but a guardian in the making, someone whose presence could one day shelter others as she shelters him, now. The vision passes, but its truth lingers like the aftertaste of iron. Oleg gestures for silence. The three of them remain still, statues in the silver wash of moonlight, while the unseen presence moves at the garden's edge, testing the border between the ordinary world and the one that breathes beneath it. The scrape halts, only silence remains, heavy as snow about to fall. Then, slowly, footsteps retreat. Whoever searched has decided to wait for another night, or perhaps to watch from afar the shadow. The boy exhales, trembling with relief. Marta strokes his hair, murmuring soundless comfort. Oleg picks up the sack of wires again, heavier not with weight but with consequence. The garden holds its breath as if aware that a chapter has turned. The three rise together. The boy leans against Marta, his thin frame trembling but steadying with each step. Oleg leads them toward the path, every movement deliberate, respectful of the night's fragile calm. Behind them the birch gleams, keeper of silence, witness to beginnings. Ahead the river waits, carrying both danger and promise in its black current. And somewhere beyond its bend, under the patient blade of the moon, a presence follows, unseen but certain, preparing to test just how well the hidden can disguise themselves. The river accepts them again, its black surface folding and unfolding with unhurried patience. Marta keeps the boy close, his small frame leaning against her as though she were the last solid shore. Oleg walks ahead, the sack of wires knocking gently against his thigh with each step, a quiet metronome of vigilance. The scrape of the unseen follower has retreated into the distance, yet its echo lingers in their marrow, a memory sharper than present danger. The night is not broken, but it is no longer whole. Even the moon seems to hold her blade more tensely, as though aware she may be called upon to cut. The boy's breathing steadies in the rhythm of exhaustion, but beneath it runs another current, restless, half-formed. His body knows it is on the verge of a new grammar, one that will require him to conjugate himself in ways no human tongue has mastered. Marta feels the quiver of it beneath her palm. She remembers her own first nights, when her bones had hummed with unfinished songs, and the world seemed split between fear and promise. She recalls how she had prayed for someone to tell her she was not broken, only widening. Now she is that voice for him, though she speaks not with words but with the quiet certainty of presence. Oleg halts by the riverbank, where stones protrude like teeth worn smooth by centuries. He sets the sack down and crouches to wash his hands in the current. The water bites with cold, yet he holds his fingers there as if offering them for judgment. When he lifts them again, the droplets gleam silver under the moon, each bead a tiny verdict. He turns his head slightly toward Marta, and the boy, his eyes calm but weighted. "The one who sets these snares is close," he says, voice low as moss. "Closer than they should be, closer than they have ever dared." Marta nods, her grip on the boy tightening not in fear but in silent oath. The boy raises his head. His eyes catch the moonlight, not fully human, not yet wholly other. "Why me?" he whispers, the words thin as reed stalks bending in wind. His voice trembles with both innocence and accusation, the raw question every initiate carries. Marta kneels before him so their eyes meet at the same horizon. "Because the river chose you," she answers softly. "Because the moon remembers you. Because what you carry is not curse but kinship. And because you are not alone." The boy blinks, tears threatening but withheld, as though already learning the discipline of silence. His fingers curl into hers with surprising strength. The reeds stir. A low wind slides along the water, carrying with it scents not born of earth. Oil, ash, the sterile tang of manufactured things. Oleg rises, shoulders broad as doorways, his eyes narrowing as if tracing a line between stars. They are testing us, he murmurs, not just with snares but with presence, with pursuit. His words are not complaint but statement, the way one might describe weather or the turning of a season. The boy listens, his young face sharpening into a mask of awareness. Already he is being shaped by the knowledge that existence itself is camouflage, that survival is not in battle but in the art of blending, healing, enduring. Marta strokes the boy's hair. There are always those who seek proof, she says, voice heavy with memory. But proof is hungry, and hunger does not care what it ruins. She remembers centuries of stories told across fires and ink, of kings who sent hunters to find them, of inquisitors who burned forests in their search, of scientists who dreamed of cages disguised as laboratories. Each age found its own word for fear. Each age built snares of different materials, iron, law, rumour, but the pattern never changed. What did change, always, was the nation's answer, not violence but invisibility, not conquest but continuity. To remain disguised is not cowardice, it is wisdom. The boy looks at her with a mixture of dread and yearning. Will I have to hide forever? His voice cracks like ice underfoot. Marta pulls him close until his forehead rests against her collarbone. You will learn to hide like the roots hide, she murmurs, not from fear but from strength. Roots hold the tree even in storms, unseen yet vital. You will learn the disguises that are not masks but ways of being, honest as breath. The boy nods faintly, though she can feel the weight of his uncertainty pressing against her. The promise of belonging is both a comfort and a burden. Above them, the moon begins her slow climb higher, her blade broadening into a softer curve. Shadows stretch along the riverbank, elongating as if to remind them that time is not their enemy but their witness. Oleg slings the sack over his shoulder once more, and motions toward the path that leads into the deeper city. We cannot linger, he says. The night is carrying more than it should. Marta rises, the boy steadying himself against her hand. His small figure is fragile in the moonlight, yet in the tilt of his shoulders lies a glimmer of what he might become, a guardian whose presence humbles even silence. They walk along the river, each step writing a sentence the city may never read but will always feel. Windows glow in the distance, each one a quiet hearth of ignorance and safety. To those inside, the night is empty, save for dreams. But outside, in the hidden seams, the old nation moves carefully, weaving itself through danger with the patience of moss reclaiming stone. Marta senses it in the way the air thickens, in the way even dogs have fallen silent, as though the city itself knows it is being tested. The boy walks between them, already disguised, already learning the rhythm of belonging. The path bends. Ahead, faint in the fog that rises from the river, a shadow waits, not the scrape of iron this time, not the rustle of reed, but a form tall and motionless, standing where the road narrows. The figure does not move. It does not need to. Its stillness is a declaration, a message that their secrecy is not as whole as they believed. Marta feels the boy tense beside her. Oleg shifts the sack on his shoulder, his gaze sharp as a key about to meet a lock. The river slows, the reeds hush, and the moon sharpens her blade once more, preparing to illuminate what waits at the narrowing of the road. The shadow ahead remains still, cut from the fog as though the night itself had carved a sentinel. Marta slows, her hand resting on the boy's shoulder, feeling the quick rhythm of his pulse echo against her palm. Oleg lowers the sack from his shoulder with deliberate calm, placing it at his feet as one might set down a burden that should not be mistaken for a weapon. The river beside them swells with hush, its surface black glass reflecting only fragments of the moon's blade. The figure waits, neither approaching nor retreating, a silence thick as resin around it. Then it breathes, not loudly, but with the weight of presence. The sound carries the musk of human sweat mingled with something sharper, metallic and unnatural, as though machinery hid beneath the lungs. Marta senses no kinship in it. This is not one of theirs. The boy stiffens, his half-wakened instincts recoiling. His eyes flare faintly, catching threads of silver. Oleg tilts his head, studying the figure, as if testing the tumblers of an unfamiliar lock. His voice is even, carrying only enough force to reach the distance. You are far from your home. The fog eats the words, but the figure hears. It shifts, not stepping forward, but letting the fog peel back. Moonlight outlines a man's shape, tall, narrow in the shoulders, wrapped in a coat too long for utility. His face remains shadowed, though his eyes reflect a glint that belongs neither to beast nor to ordinary man. In his hand glimmers wire, coiled neatly, not as discarded scrap, but as chosen instrument. He is the one who set the snares. Now he sets into the open, his movements precise, calculated, as if he has rehearsed the posture of menace without truly feeling it. He holds himself not like a hunter born of forests, but like an imitator, a scholar who has memorized cruelty from books. Marta senses the boy's trembling. She bends close, whispering where only his ear can hear. Do not answer fear with fear. Let it pass through you like water. We are the river, not the stone. His small body steadies, though she feels how tightly he clings to her sleeve. Oleg keeps his gaze steady on the man. The night does not belong to you, he says, his words more ritual than threat. The man smiles faintly, though the smile is a knife with no warmth. Everything belongs to those who prove it, he replies, his voice carrying the hollow echo of someone who believes more in tools than in truth. The reeds quiver with unease, bending as though bowing away from him. Even the scarecrow, distant in the field, seems to lean its head, unwilling to face what stands on the path. Marta feels anger rise like a tide, but tempers it with discipline. Werewolves do not meet cruelty on its own terms. They endure, they disguise, they reshape. Yet here is someone who has pierced the veil, who dares to stand at the edge of their secrecy. His presence is not merely curiosity, it is intrusion, sharpened into intent. He knows they exist, and he seeks to prove it by force. The boy shifts suddenly, his eyes flashing brighter, a growl rippling from his throat. Before he can stop it, the man's expression sharpens, triumphant at the sound. He takes a step forward, the coil of wire dangling like bait. There it is, he whispers, though the whisper carries, I knew the myths had flesh. Marta pulls the boy close, her body shielding him, her gaze never leaving the intruder. Oleg lifts his hand slightly, a gesture that carries both warning and calm. His voice is a low thrum, steady as heartbeat. Turn back. You carry no right to this path. But the man only laughs, soft and dangerous, as though he has already marked them as prey. The moon sharpens her blade, slicing fog into ribbons. For an instant, her light grazes the man's face, gaunt, eyes fevered with obsession, skin pale with sleepless hunger. This is no mere villager with idle curiosity. This is someone consumed, someone who has given years to pursuit. His disguise is his ordinariness, yet within him burns a fire colder than any winter. He seeks not understanding, but capture, not kinship, but control. And in that gaze, Marta sees the echo of centuries past, when hunters in different garb sought the same proof, carrying torches, steel, scripture, or science. Always the same hunger, always the same danger. Oleg's posture remains calm, but his fingers flex as if ready to unlock something deeper within himself. Marta steadies the boy, who now trembles with fury rather than fear. She leans down, murmuring, Hold your shape. Disguise is our strength. To reveal yourself is to give him what he wants. The boy clenches his jaw, the light in his eyes dimming back to human brown, though his breath still rasps like wind through teeth. The man frowns faintly, disappointed but not deterred. You cannot hide forever, he says, voice low and sure. The world will know what walks among it. Marta meets his gaze, her own eyes calm as still water. The world already knows, she says softly. It simply chooses not to name us. The man falters, as though the quiet truth unsettles him more than any growl. He tightens his grip on the wire, but he does not step closer. Perhaps he senses the weight of the night pressing against him, the moon's patient judgment, the reeds whispering warnings. Perhaps he knows that even obsession has limits when faced with silence that does not bend. For a long moment they remain there, the hunter with his coil of proof, the locksmith and the florist with their secret burden, the boy trembling between futures. The river flows beside them, indifferent yet aware, carrying the reflection of all three under the moon's silver blade. Finally, the man lowers the wire. He does not retreat fully, but he steps back into the fog, his outline dissolving into shadow. His voice lingers, disembodied. Another, another time, then silence swallows him whole. The reeds lift again, relieved. The scarecrow seems to straighten. The boy exhales in a shudder. Marta holds him tighter, her heart steady but heavy with foreboding. Oleg retrieves the sack once more, his jaw set in quiet resolve. The night resumes its breathing, but the rhythm has changed. They know now that secrecy has been pierced, that someone walks the same paths with eyes too hungry to close. The river carries them onward, yet in its depths Marta feels a darker current beginning to stir, promising that the next encounter will not end with retreat. The fog swallows the man's retreat, but his absence leaves behind a residue, a silence too sharp to be ordinary. Marta feels it in the boy's grip, in the restless pulse that won't settle beneath her palm. Oleg shoulders the sack once more, his eyes fixed on the path ahead, but his jaw clenches in a rhythm that betrays unease. The river flows beside them, carrying the reflection of moon and reeds, but even the water seems darker now, as though the man's shadow had fallen into it and chosen to ride downstream. They walk on, each step cautious, each breath tuned to the smallest disturbances of night. The boy's questions simmer unspoken. Marta feels them in his small body, in the way his shoulders rise as though bracing against a storm not yet visible. She keeps her hand on him, not answering what he hasn't asked aloud. To speak too soon is to harden fear into prophecy. Instead, she lets silence hold them, teaching him the discipline that is older than words, that sometimes survival means allowing the night to speak first. He presses closer to her side, drawing strength from her quietness, learning without realizing it that disguise is not only external, it is the art of guiding one's own trembling into stillness. They leave the riverside and enter streets where the city exhales its forgotten breath. Windows are shuttered, lamps gutter in their glass cages, alleys stretch like veins through the bones of warehouses. Oleg leads them through these corridors with the certainty of someone who has walked locks and hinges into memory. He knows which doors squeal, which cobbles betray weight, which shadows welcome rather than expose. Each turn is deliberate, each pause a calculation. The boy follows, absorbing the lesson of invisibility, that being unseen is not magic but practice, a craft cultivated in the patience of countless steps. At last they arrive at a low building that hides between taller shells of brick. Its roof sags, its walls wear the soot of decades, but within it lives the older nation's gathering place. Oleg taps the doorframe with knuckles, 3 slow beats, and a silence. The door opens without sound. They step into a warmth layered with scent, wood smoke, herbs drying, leather worn smooth by many hands. The boy inhales sharply, his eyes widening as though he has stepped not into a room but into a memory he has never lived. For the first time, Marta sees wonder loosen his fear. He belongs here already, though he does not yet know the songs. Inside, figures move with the grace of those accustomed to twilight. Some sit weaving cord, their fingers deft and unhurried. Others grind roots into powder, the air rich with earthy bitterness. A kettle sighs on a stove, steam curling into shapes that might be stories if one had the patience to listen. They glance at Marta, at Oleg, at the boy clinging to her hand. None ask aloud. They know recognition passes silently, like sparks leaping from coal to coal. The boy's shoulders relax for the first time, though his eyes dart, absorbing details with a hunger born of both fear and fascination. An elder rises from a low bench, her hair braided with threads of silver bark, her eyes dark as river stones. She approaches with steps that seem to carry the rhythm of centuries. The boy presses closer to Marta, but she bends, murmuring in his ear, "This is who we listen to." The elder kneels before him, lowering herself so her gaze meets his evenly. She lifts her hand, palm open. The boy hesitates, then mirrors her gesture, their palms nearly touching but not quite. A warmth passes between them, subtle, like the faint heat of embers. The elder nods, satisfied. The river has brought him, she says, her voice steady as earth. We will not let him drift alone. The boy exhales, a sound closer to relief than fear. Marta feels his body loosen, as though he has set down a burden he did not understand he carried. Oleg places the sack of wires on the table, the harsh metal coiled against the wood like a serpent caught mid-strike. Murmurs ripple through the room, not of panic but of acknowledgement. The elder studies the wires, her face unreadable. Then she looks at Marta and Oleg, her gaze heavy with unspoken meaning. The hunger has found us again, she says. It always does. She does not raise her voice. Yet every figure in the room stills. The kettle sighs louder, as though even it listens. The boy's brow furrows. He looks up at Marta, his lips parting with a question. She shakes her head gently, not silencing him, but guiding him to patience. The elder bends closer to him, her tone softening. Child, you carry the beginning of a song, she says, but songs attract listeners, not all of them kind. There will be those who seek to tear your melody apart, to claim it as their own. You must learn to sing in such a way that your voice strengthens the chorus, but does not betray its source. The boy nods. Though confusion lingers in his eyes, he understands enough to feel the weight. The night deepens outside, pressing against the windows with a breath that smells faintly of fog and iron. Marta feels the presence of the man still lurking somewhere in the city, his obsession prowling even when his body does not. The elder seems to sense it too. She places a hand on the sack of wires, her fingers closing lightly over the coils. Proof is a dangerous hunger, she says, her gaze sweeping the room. It devours not only what it captures, but the one who carries it. Her words settle like ash, soft but indelible. The boy yawns, exhaustion softening his sharp edges. Marta guides him to a bench by the stove, where warmth seeps into his bones. He leans against her, half asleep, yet his fingers still curl around hers, unwilling to let go of the tether. The room quiets, the murmurs replaced by the steady rhythm of tasks resumed. Outside, the fog thickens, swallowing streets, blurring boundaries. The city sleeps unaware, but within this low building, the hidden nation sharpens its patience, knowing that the night has begun, a new chapter. Marta strokes the boy's hair, her gaze fixed on the door, aware that the next knock may not be so gentle. The boy drifts into sleep, his breath soft against Marta's sleeve, his body surrendering at last to exhaustion. She adjusts him gently, letting his head rest against her lap, and watches the slow rise and fall of his chest. The stove hums its steady warmth, the sound mingling with the quiet shuffling of the others in the room. Oleg sits opposite her, elbows on his knees, his gaze fixed not on the boy but on the sack of wires. The coils gleam dully in the dim light, an intrusion of cold purpose into the sanctuary's warmth. Every so often his hand flexes, as if longing to unmake them further, to render them harmless in a way more final than coiling. The elder remains at the table, her fingers lightly brushing the wood, as though listening for vibrations only she can hear. Her presence is unhurried, yet the weight of it fills the room. Those around her work in silence, their tasks carried out with the calm of ritual. Herbs ground into powder, cloth cut into strips, knots tied into cord. Each small act is both practical and ceremonial, weaving the ordinary with the sacred. Marta watches and knows that this is how they endure, by folding survival into daily rhythms, disguising necessity as habit, until it becomes indistinguishable from life itself. The boy stirs briefly, his lips forming a word that never escapes, and Marta strokes his hair until he sinks back into quiet. She remembers her first nights among them, when sleep had been elusive, her body too aware of the new alphabet written into her bones. She had feared discovery at every turn, feared the betrayal of her own skin. It was here, in a room much like this, that she had learned the truth, that survival was not in hiding from others, but in learning how to let the world look straight through you Like water through reeds, that truth had steadied her, and now it must steady the boy. A sudden knock rattles the door, low but deliberate. Every head lifts. The elder raises her hand and silence sharpens. Oleg rises and approaches with careful steps, his body angled to shield the room if needed. He pauses, listening, then taps the frame with 3 knuckles, a mirror of the signal he gave earlier. The answering knock is softer, uneven. Recognition flickers in his eyes. He unlatches the door. A woman slips inside, breathless, her coat damp with fog. Her face is pale, but her eyes burn with urgency. Without waiting for permission, she speaks. He is still in the streets. He does not walk alone. The words fall like stones into water. The elder's gaze sharpens, though her body remains composed. Marta feels the boy stir again, though he does not wake. Some part of him senses the shift in the air. The woman continues, her voice trembling. I saw him near the tram depot. He carried his wire, but others followed him, men I did not know. They did not speak. Their silence was too heavy. It was not ordinary silence. Alek closes the door behind her, securing the latch with the ease of habit. His jaw tightens, the locksmith's certainty that every lock buys only time, never safety. The elder rises, her braid brushing against her shoulder, and moves to the center of the room. She does not raise her voice, but all hear her. The hunter gathers company. Proof seeks chorus. Her eyes sweep over those assembled, resting briefly on Marta and the boy. Then Oleg. It is as it has always been. Hunger grows teeth, not from one mouth, but from many. They will search, and they will stumble close to what should not be seen. She turns her gaze to Marta, steady and unwavering. You carry new responsibility now. Marta feels the words settle into her chest like a weight both heavy and rightful. She looks down at the boy, his lashes dark against his cheek, his breath shallow with dreams. The elder's meaning is clear. This child, fragile yet luminous with potential, must be guarded not only from snares, but from the eyes that crave to expose him. Marta's hand curls protectively over his shoulder. She does not need to speak. Her silence is answer enough. The woman who brought the warning moves closer to the stove, her damp coat steaming faintly. Her hands tremble as she accepts a cup of broth from another. Marta watches her drink, the heat returning color to her face, and realizes how thin their margin is. Each act of kindness is resistance. Each moment of rest is defiance. The world beyond their walls believes in myths only as curiosities or nightmares to those who walk the hidden paths. Myth is marrow, and survival depends on keeping it clothed in ordinariness. The elder begins a low chant, ancient syllables that settle into the floorboards and walls like protective smoke. The others join softly, their voices weaving into a fabric of sound both delicate and unbreakable. Marta adds her own voice, gentle so as not to wake the boy. Oleg's baritone hum threads through the room like iron beneath velvet. Together they build a shield not of walls but of resonance, a disguise stronger than stone, the sound of belonging. The boy shifts once more, a faint smile crossing his lips as though the song has reached into his dream. Outside, the fog presses against the windows, thickening, heavy with unseen footsteps. The city continues its sleep, unaware of the gathering beneath its skin. Marta feels the chant vibrate in her bones, aligning her with the others, reminding her that secrecy is not solitude but community hidden in plain sight. The elder lifts her hand, the voices fade, and silence returns, not empty but fortified. The boy sleeps on, the wires glimmer on the table, and the night waits with the patience of something that knows dawn will come, but not before darker tests arrive. The fortified silence lingers after the chant, like a cloak laid over the room. Yet Marta feels the edges of unease pressing against it. The boy sleeps, but his dreams move in restless currents. His breath quickens, his fingers twitch as though grasping for shapes unseen. She smooths his hair, whispering no words, only a rhythm meant to anchor him. Outside, the fog thickens, carrying with it the weight of more than weather. In its folds walk intentions sharper than knives. She senses them even through the walls, a vibration in the air, a coldness beneath the warmth of the stove. The elder lowers herself once more to the bench, her hands folding neatly, her posture serene, yet her eyes are far away, as if watching paths that stretch beyond stone and soil. Oleg takes the sack of wires to the far corner, covering it with a cloth. He lingers a moment, his back straight, then returns to sit close enough to the door that his presence becomes a barrier. His silence is heavier now, not the calm of ritual, but the tension of a man counting hinges in his mind, rehearsing which ones will bear a sudden weight. The others in the room continue their small tasks, though the pace has shifted. The weaving of cord is sharper, the grinding of roots more deliberate. Each motion seems to say, "We endure because we must." Even as the world leans closer with hungry eyes, Marta listens to the scratch of pestle against mortar, the soft tug of thread, the hiss of the stove. These are disguises too, ordinary sounds masking extraordinary vigilance. The boy stirs again, a faint growl slipping from his throat before dissolving into a sigh. Marta feels the rumble against her legs, a resonance both tender and dangerous. She remembers her own first growls, the shame that followed, the fear of being overheard. Yet the elders had taught her that sound was not betrayal, but rehearsal, a body learning its second instrument. She bends to the boy's ear, whispering as though to guide him through his dream. "You are not broken. You are two, and both are whole." His breathing steadies, his small jaw unclenches, and the growl fades into silence. The door creaks suddenly under pressure, not from wind, but from a hand testing its frame. Alec rises at once, his body shadowing the wood. The room freezes. The elder lifts one hand, halting every breath. The pressure eases. Whoever stood there has stepped back, or melted into fog. Marta's heart drums, but her face remains calm. The boy does not wake, though his fingers curl tighter around hers, as though some part of him knows. The elder speaks at last, her voice like the slow unfolding of roots. They circle, not yet ready to strike, but ready to test. The night teaches them courage they have not earned. She turns her gaze to Marta. When the boy wakes, his path must continue. He cannot linger under our roof alone, or the roof will burn around him. You know this. Marta nods. She does know. The boy's presence is both blessing and danger. To keep him here is to invite the hunter's obsession to spill into every corner. To guide him onward is to risk him too soon in a world that does not forgive. Yet the choice is not hers alone. It is already woven into the larger fabric. Oleg kneels beside the stove, reaching into the shadows beneath it. From a cavity hidden by soot, he retrieves a small pouch. He sets it on the table before the elder, who opens it carefully. Inside gleam tokens carved from bone, each etched with lines too old to trace, symbols of passage used by their kind for generations. The elder selects one, its surface worn smooth by countless hands, and places it in Marta's palm. It is warm, as though carrying its own memory of fire. "This will open the next door," she says. Not a door of wood or stone, but the door of recognition. When you meet those who wait, they will see and know. Marta closes her fingers around the token, feeling its weight. She looks down at the boy, still sleeping, unaware that destiny has already begun to mark his path. She wonders if he will curse them one day for not giving him a simpler fate. Yet she knows there is no simpler fate for what he is. His disguise will be his shield, his kindness his camouflage. The world will see a boy, then a man, never suspecting the wolf that runs beneath his skin, unless he chooses to show it. The woman who brought the warning rises, moving to the window. She parts the curtain with the smallest gesture, then stiffens. "They watch," she whispers. Marta follows her gaze. Across the street, half swallowed by fog, a figure stands. It is not the hunter, but one of his silent companions. His stillness is wrong, too deliberate. as though carved from the mist itself. His face is unseen, his posture patient. He waits, not advancing, not retreating, only watching. The elder does not move, but her voice fills the room with quiet certainty. They will not breach tonight. Their hunger is not yet sharpened enough, but their eyes will not close. From now on, every step you take will be within their circle. The room exhales, not relief but acceptance. They know the pattern. Each cycle of pursuit is longer, each test more exacting. The disguises that once sufficed will need to deepen, to grow new roots.
Marta looks once more at the boy, then at Oleg, then at the elder. The token burns faintly in her hand, as if eager to begin its work. The night outside waits with its watchers, its fog, its unspoken threats. She knows dawn will come, but dawn will not erase the eyes. It will only move them into new disguises. She strokes the boy's hair, steadying herself with the feel of his warmth. The elder's words echo in her chest, not yet ready to strike, but ready to test.
And somewhere beyond the fog, the hunter himself sharpens his patience, his coil of wire gleaming like an unfinished thought. The boy wakes before dawn, stirred not by noise but by the shifting weight of dreams. His eyes open wide in the half-light, pupils dilated, as though some echo of the night outside has walked into his sleep and refused to leave. Marta feels the sudden change, her hand instinctively moving to his shoulder. He looks at her, his gaze uncertain, half child, half something older. She murmurs softly, and though he cannot yet name the reassurance, he leans against her as if it were the only shore he trusted. The token lies warm in her pocket, its presence a pulse, a reminder that their path now bends toward inevitability. The elder rises with the slow grace of someone who has carried centuries in her bones. She lays a hand on the boy's head, her touch both blessing and farewell. It begins, she says, her tone not mournful, not triumphant, only steady, like the voice of the earth marking another season. The boy blinks up at her, and though he does not fully understand, some part of him accepts the weight of her words. Marta knows this is how it has always been. No ceremony grander than this, only the passing of presents from one hand to another. Outside the fog thins, giving way to the grey edge of morning. Yet the watchers remain. Marta feels their stillness pressing against the walls, waiting for motion, for mistake. She thinks of the hunter, his eyes fevered, his coil of wire ready to snap closed. He has not retreated, he has only changed position. The city is his snare now, every alley a tightening loop, every tram line a thread in his design. But disguise is their craft, older than his obsession, older than snares or proof. They will walk through his net, not by force but by being overlooked, by blending into the ordinary so seamlessly that even hunger doubts itself. Oleg prepares quietly. He gathers cloths, herbs, a flask of water, small necessities disguised as a traveller's bundle. He does not speak much. His silence is his offering. His hands, steady as ever, knot the cords with care, as though each knot is a promise. Marta watches him, grateful for his presence. The boy does too, his eyes following Oleg's movements with the reverence of someone learning without asking. It is in this way the craft is passed, not through lectures but through example, each gesture a lesson in endurance. The elder speaks once more, her voice like the low murmur of rivers under ice. When you leave, you do not look back. Looking back opens cracks. You walk forward as though you belong to the day. And you do. The day is blind to what you carry. If you do not betray it with fear, Marta nods, her throat tight. She bends to the boy, whispering, "We walk as we are. No one will see more than they should." He nods back, clinging to the rhythm of her certainty. When they step outside, the air bites colder, carrying the faint metallic tang of tram rails and distant chimneys. The street is pale with morning, ordinary in its details. A cat slipping along a fence, milk bottles sweating on a doorstep, paper boys yawning as they shuffle routes. Yet in the fog's residue linger shapes that are not ordinary. At the far corner stands one of the silent companions, as still as ever, his coat blending with shadow. Marta keeps her gaze steady ahead, not meeting his eyes, teaching the boy through her body. To acknowledge is to invite, to ignore is to vanish. The boy mirrors her, shoulders squared, gaze fixed on the path. They walk. Each step is part of the disguise, each breath folded into the larger rhythm of the city waking. Oleg strides with locksmith's patience, Marta with florist's grace, the boy with the tentative steps of childhood. Together they form a picture so ordinary it demands no second glance. A passerby sees only a family, or something close enough to one that the mind refuses to question. This is the essence of survival. Not erasing oneself, but inhabiting ordinariness so fully that curiosity slips away unsatisfied. Still, Marta feels the weight of eyes following. The hunter's reach is long, and though he does not show himself now, his silence presses from alleys and rooftops. She knows he tests them, learning their patterns, studying the spaces where their disguise frays. He is not fooled by ordinariness forever. He is patient, methodical, but patience is theirs as well, and their patience is older. It has been carried through centuries, across continents, whispered in lullabies, hidden in gestures, woven into rituals of kindness. Proof cannot withstand such endurance. It rusts, it frays, it loses heart. The boy slips his hand into hers, not out of fear but solidarity. His eyes scan the street with the awareness of someone who already sees more than he admits. Marta squeezes his hand gently, proud and sorrowful at once. Childhood is thinning for him, drawn taut by the second self stirring beneath his skin. He is still small, still breakable, yet he carries inside him the shape of something vast and enduring. She feels both fierce protectiveness and awe. As they turn a corner, the city expands into the market square. Stalls rise like tired soldiers, their awnings streaked with dew. Merchants arrange bread and fish, their chatter drifting lazily. The smell of yeast and salt fills the air, mingling with coal smoke. It is here, amid the clamour of ordinariness, that they must disappear most fully. Marta adjusts her posture, loosening her shoulders, letting her expression soften into casual attention. Oleg carries the bundle as if it were no heavier than habit. The boy keeps close, his gaze flicking between baskets of fruit, pretending fascination. Together they dissolve into the crowd. Yet even here, the presence lingers. At the far end of the square, a man pauses too long at a stall of knives. His coat is familiar. His eyes do not examine the blades, but the people. Marta's breath slows. She guides the boy closer to her, murmuring softly without words. Oleg shifts subtly, placing himself between them and the watcher. The morning continues around them, loud with vendors' calls and clinking coins, but beneath it runs a thread of tension sharp as wire. They move on, step by step, absorbed by the market's rhythm. Behind them, the man lingers. Ahead, the city opens its labyrinth of streets. The disguise holds for now, but Marta feels the token's warmth pulse stronger in her pocket, as though reminding her that the next door is near, waiting to be found. The hunter is patient, but so are they. The test has only begun. The market folds around them with the weight of ordinary sound, vendors calling, coins clinking, children weaving through legs with baskets too large for their arms. Yet behind the noise, Marta feels the thin thread of pursuit. The man at the knives stall lingers like a shadow that refuses to dissolve, his attention sharp even while his body pretends idleness. She keeps her pace steady, guiding the boy with a light pressure of her hand, teaching him with each step. Never run, never glance back, never offer proof by acting like prey. The disguise is not only in faces and clothes, it is in rhythm, in posture, in the refusal to invite suspicion. Oleg moves a half step behind them, his presence an anchor, his body a hinge between threat and safety. His eyes sweep the edges of the square, counting doors, alleys, vantage points. He knows the city as he knows a lock. Every groove, every weak point, every secret passage, yet even his steady patience tightens in this place, for he feels the net weaving itself from silence and watchful eyes. The hunter does not need to act yet. He only needs to watch and wait for the smallest fracture. Marta leads the boy toward a stall heavy with herbs. Bundles of thyme and sage dangle in fragrant clusters, their scent masking the sweat and smoke of the crowd. The vendor, an older man with hands cracked by years of handling roots, greets her with a nod. She answers in kind, slipping coins into his palm. The exchange is casual, invisible in its ordinariness. Yet as he wraps the herbs in paper, his thumb presses lightly against her wrist, leaving a trace of warmth. His eyes flicker once toward the far corner of the square, then back to her. The gesture is small, but it carries meaning. He has seen the Watcher too. He has acknowledged it, and without words he has lent his awareness to hers. This is how the hidden nation survives, not in secrecy alone, but in the quiet weaving of countless unnoticed alliances. A florist, a locksmith, a herbalist, a tram operator, all ordinary, all overlooked, yet all carrying threads of an older law beneath their sleeves. The boy watches closely, sensing more than he understands. Marta feels his small fingers tighten around hers, not in fear, but in recognition that he is being shown a map invisible to most eyes. She bends close, whispering, "See how the world holds us when we hold it gently." He nods, solemn, though his eyes still shine with questions too large for his age. They move on, past baskets of apples, crates of fish gleaming with cold scales, bolts of cloth unrolled like rivers of colour. The boy's gaze lingers on a row of wooden animals carved with clumsy tenderness. For a moment he looks simply like a child. Tempted by a toy, Marta allows the pause, letting him breathe inside the mask of ordinariness. But even as she smiles at his wonder, her ears are tuned to silence beyond the chatter, the silence where danger crouches. At the edge of the square, the fog thickens once more, curling around the doorway of a narrow alley. Marta feels the token in her pocket grow warmer, as if stirred by proximity. This is the next door, not of stone, not of wood, but of recognition. The elder's words echo, "When you meet those who wait, they will see and know." She guides the boy subtly toward the alley, Oleg following with the bundle slung across his back. The crowd thins as they approach, voices fading, footsteps echoing differently against the closer walls. The air changes, carrying dampness and the faint smell of ink. Inside the alley, shadows deepen. For a moment they seem alone, the sounds of the market distant, blurred. Then from the far end, a figure steps forward. She is cloaked in grey, her hair streaked dark and silver, her eyes steady as winter sky. She does not speak. Instead, she raises her hand, palm outward. Marta feels the token's heat burn stronger in her pocket. Answering, she takes it out, the carved bone glowing faintly in the thin light, and raises it in silence. The woman's expression softens almost imperceptibly, a nod passing between them like a door opening without sound. The boy clings closer, his body tense, uncertain. Marta kneels beside him, showing him the token. "This," she whispers, "is how we find each other. We do not knock on doors, we show what has been carried before us." And the door opens itself. His eyes widen as he studies the bone, tracing its worn lines. He looks at the woman again, and though he does not fully understand, some part of him feels the pull of belonging. The woman gestures for them to follow, her steps slow, deliberate, as if each one measures their trust. They walk deeper into the alley, the walls narrowing, until at last a small arch reveals itself, half hidden by ivy and shadow. The woman pushes it open, and a stair descends beneath the city. The air is cooler, thick with stone and thyme. Marta feels the boy hesitate, his small body rigid at the threshold. She squeezes his hand gently, steadying him. "This is not falling," she whispers. "This is remembering." He exhales shakily, then steps forward with her. Oleg follows last, his eyes sweeping the street one final time, before closing the arch behind them. For a moment, darkness swallows all. Then torches flicker to life along the walls, revealing a passage carved long ago, worn smooth by generations of feet. The boy gazes wide-eyed, the flames light painting his face with awe. Marta feels his grip at ease, his fear melting into curiosity. The token still burns faintly in her palm, guiding her deep. Behind them, unseen in the fog, the hunter watches the alley with patient hunger. He does not follow yet. He studies, he learns, and he waits for the moment when disguise thins enough to tear. The stair carries them downward in a spiral, stone damp beneath their feet, the air scented with minerals and old smoke. The torches hum faintly, their flames licking the walls as though tasting each groove of history. Marta keeps the boy close, her hand steady on his shoulder. His eyes dart, wide with both fear and wonder, catching each flicker of light as though it might speak. Oleg's steps are measured behind them, his presence as sure as the key he has always been. The cloaked woman leads, her pace slow, reverent, as if guiding them through more than stone. The passage opens at last, into a cavern vast enough to hold silence as a living thing. Its ceiling arches high, lost in shadows, while its floor gleams with trickling water that gathers into shallow pools. Stone pillars rise like ancient guardians, their surfaces carved with lines so worn they seem less symbols than memories of symbols. Along the walls, figures sit in clusters, their shapes blurred between human and something more. Some wear shawls, others work with tools, others simply watch. All turn as the newcomers arrive. Their eyes glint in the torchlight, gold, amber, grey, each carrying its own history. The boy stiffens. Marta feels his instinct to shrink back, but she steadies him with a squeeze. "These are ours," she whispers. He swallows hard, then nods, though his body remains taut. The cloaked woman steps aside, letting the group take them in. For a long moment, silence reigns, broken only by the drip of water and the faint shuffle of paws against stone. Then from among them, a figure rises, an elder again, but different from the one they left above. This one's hair flows white as frost, his shoulders broad, his eyes deep set, luminous with patience. He steps forward, his movements unhurried, his presence filling the space like slow thunder. He stops before the boy, kneeling so their gazes meet. He studies him with neither judgment nor softness, only truth. The boy trembles, his small body caught between resisting and surrendering to what he already knows he is. The elder lifts a hand and brushes his fingers lightly across the boy's brow. At the touch, the boy shudders, a growl rumbling low in his throat before dissolving into breath. His eyes flash once, silver beneath brown, then settle again. The elder nods, satisfied. His voice rolls out, low and resonant. He carries the second song. A ripple passes through the cavern, heads bowing, shoulders easing. A chorus of recognition. The boy looks bewildered, half ashamed of the growl he could not hold back. Marta bends close, murmuring, "You did nothing wrong." You answered honestly. He clings to her sleeve, uncertain, yet she feels the faintest shift in him, a fragile acceptance that his truth has been seen without punishment. The elder straightens, his gaze sweeping to Marta and Oleg. "You bring him through shadow and into witness," he says. The watchers gather above, their hunger sharpened. "But you carry him through still." His eyes linger on Marta, then drop to the token in her palm. She steps forward, offering it without hesitation. He takes it, turns it once in his hand, then returns it to her. "Now it belongs to him," he says. Marta kneels, placing the warm bone into the boy's small hand. The boy stares at it, then at her, confused. She whispers, "This is proof not of you, but for you. When you meet those who wait, they will see you through it." He nods slowly, fingers curling around the token, his grip fierce though uncertain. Around them, murmurs rise as stories begin to weave. Some speak of hunters in centuries past, knights who sought glory by slaying shadows, doctors who opened bodies searching for what could not be bottled, priests who named fur as sin and burned it in fire. Each age crafted its own disguise for fear. Each insisted proof must be drawn with cruelty. And yet each age passed, leaving the hidden nation still here, still breathing, still threading itself into the world's seams. The boy listens, his young face taut, absorbing the cadence even if the words slip beyond him. Marta knows these stories will root in him, seeds that bloom later. Oleg sits near the pool, his reflection doubled in the dark water. He dips his hand in, then lets the droplets fall back, rippling the surface into temporary chaos. He knows, as they all do, that the hunter above will not tire quickly. His kind rarely do. But he also knows that water smooths every stone eventually, no matter how sharp. He glances at Marta, his expression steady but shadowed by concern. She meets his gaze, reading in it the truth neither will say aloud. The hunter has already seen too much. The elder lifts his arms and silence gathers again. His voice is soft this time, but carries. The boy will walk the edge between day and night. It is the way of us all. But in him, the crossing will be watched more closely. Disguise must be his first craft. Patience his first shield. His eyes fall once more on Marta. And you must hold him steady until he learns to hold himself. She bows her head slightly. Accepting. The boy clutches the token as though it were a flame that might burn out if he loosened his grip. His breathing steadies, his shoulders easing just enough. For the first time, he does not look only frightened. He looks as if he senses that he is not an accident, not alone, but a thread woven deliberately into a fabric older than he imagined. Marta strokes his hair, whispering, "You are part of us now. Nothing can take that." Above, in the streets and alleys where fog still lingers, the hunter waits. His coil of wire rests in his hand. Patient as ever, he does not know what lies beneath, not yet, but he feels the pulse of something larger than him, and his hunger grows sharper. The night is changing shape, and he means to follow it into its depth. The cavern breathes around them, a hush woven from stone and memory. The boy sits close to Marta, the token clutched tightly in his hand, its carved surface pressing into his palm as though it were a secret he must hold with all his strength. The elder returns to his place among the carved pillars, his eyes lingering on them once more before lowering in meditation. The others resume their quiet movements, binding herbs, tracing sigils into stone, whispering chants so soft they merge with the drip of water. Yet beneath the calm, Marta feels a subtle current shifting. It coils through the cavern like unseen smoke, foretelling change. Oleg rests against one of the pillars, his face unreadable in the flickering light. His silence tonight is heavier, carrying thoughts he does not voice. Marta senses the weight pressing behind his stillness. The locksmith's knowledge that even the oldest locks can be broken if pressed long enough. He catches her gaze briefly, and in his eyes she reads both loyalty and unspoken warning. The hunter's patience will not last forever. The quiet hours before dawn are merely an inhale before something sharper. The boy turns the token in his fingers, studying its grooves. His young brow furrows, as if he expects the lines to speak. Marta bends close, her voice low enough to belong only to him. The token is not a voice, but a mirror. It does not tell you who you are. It lets others recognize what you carry. He looks at her, uncertain. What if I do not want them to see? His whisper trembles with honesty. Marta smooths his hair back, her chest tightening. Disguise is your choice. You can be seen when you wish, and unseen when you must. That is our strength. The boy nods faintly, though doubt shadows his eyes. He is beginning to feel the weight of duality, the strange ache of carrying both ordinary childhood and the stirrings of something vast beneath it. His hands are still small, his body still fragile. Yet already his breath sometimes deepens into a rhythm older than his years. Marta knows this is the dangerous threshold, when disguise must be worn most carefully, yet when the inner truth pushes hardest to emerge. A sound rises at the edge of the cavern, distant, muffled, yet distinct, the tread of boots against earth. The figures gathered still at once, their eyes sharpening like struck flint. The cloaked woman who led them here moves swiftly to the passageway, her steps silent. She presses her ear to the stone, then returns with a face carved in warning. They search above, too close. Their steps bleed into the ground. The elder exhales, long and deep, as if the weight of centuries presses on him again. It begins sooner than I hoped, he murmurs. He looks at Marta, his gaze unwavering. You must move the boy. His presence here draws the gaze. The hunter's obsession follows him, and soon the silence above will break into noise. Marta nods, though her stomach knots. She has only just guided the boy into this sanctuary, and already the path demands she lead him out again. Yet she understands, safety is never stillness. Safety is always movement, disguise reshaping itself with each turn. The boy clings to her sleeve, his eyes wide with sudden fear. They are coming. His voice quivers. Marta kneels, steadying him with both hands. They are looking, but looking is not finding. We will move before their eyes can settle. He swallows, nodding, though his grip remains fierce. Oleg gathers the bundle again, his motions calm, precise, but his jaw tight with resolve. The elder steps closer, placing one heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. You will walk paths many before you have walked. Fear them if you must, but never hate them. Hatred draws hunters closer than any scent. Remember this. The boy nods, his lips pressed tight. Marta feels the lesson lodge in him like a seed, too heavy for now, but one that will root deep. They rise to leave. The cloaked woman leads once more, her lantern dimmed so its glow scarcely reaches beyond her own steps. The cavern exhales behind them, the murmurs resuming, chants reweaving the protective hush. Marta glances back once, catching the shimmer of eyes watching them go, each gaze a quiet blessing. Then the stone folds around them again as they ascend a new passage. This stair climbs sharply, the air growing warmer, tinged with smoke and oil. The boy pants with the effort, but Marta steadies him, guiding his steps. Oleg climbs last, his presence shielding them from behind. At last they reach another arch, hidden beneath the husk of an abandoned workshop. Rusted tools hang from walls, cobwebs thick in corners, dust softening everything into a dream of disuse. The cloaked woman pushes aside a warped door, revealing the street. The city above has shifted. Night's fog has thinned, leaving alleyways exposed, but silence still crouches heavy. Shapes linger at corners, men standing too still, their gazes pretending casualness, yet too fixed to deceive. Marta feels the boy stiffen, his instinct to hide nearly overwhelming. She leans close, whispering, "Now is when we walk most like ourselves. Do not shrink. Do not rush. Walk as though this is your home." He takes a shaky breath, then nods. They step into the street, their pace steady, their forms ordinary against the waking city. But Marta feels eyes hook into them, invisible wires pulling. Somewhere close, the hunter watches, unseen but certain, his hunger sharpened further by the knowledge that his quarry continues to slip beyond reach. He will not let go. The city itself becomes his snare, each shadow a knot tightening, each silence a test. The boy's small hand tightens around the token. Marta feels its warmth through his palm, and she knows the next crossing will demand more than disguise alone. Something is beginning to stir inside him, something neither he nor she can keep hidden much longer. The morning stretches thin across the city, its light fragile as spun glass, unable to banish the residue of fog clinging to corners and roofs. Marta guides the boy with a steadying hand, her movements purposeful but unhurried, each step measured against the invisible gaze she feels pressing from the margins. Oleg lingers half a pace behind, the bundle slung across his shoulder, his eyes flicking with locksmith precision to every doorway, every gutter, every shape that might conceal intent. The cloaked woman, having led them from the workshop, remains at the threshold, her figure melting back into shadow, as if reclaiming her own disguise. The boy walks stiffly at first, his grip on the token so tight it reddens his palm. Marta bends closer, whispering as they move. Hold it as if it belongs, not as if it is being stolen from you. Its strength grows when you wear it lightly. He glances at her, uncertain, but loosens his hand fractionally, tucking the bone charm into the fold of his coat. The heat of it lingers against his chest, a small flame under cloth, steadying him. The street opens into a wider lane, lined with warehouses. Their brick faces loom heavy, windows dark, their emptiness humming with echoes of labour long abandoned. Yet silence here is not the silence of vacancy. Marta feels it in her skin. The watchers nest in the angles of shadow, their patience taut. Somewhere, perhaps behind a cracked shutter or a stack of crates, the hunter waits, coil of wire gleaming like a thought unfinished. His obsession has not dimmed. It sharpens with every step they take away from his grasp. The boy senses it too. His pace falters, his breath catching as if the air itself thickens. Marta squeezes his hand, not breaking stride. Look ahead, she murmurs. Do not let your fear choose where you look. Let your eyes belong to you. He lifts his chin, his gaze fixing on the stretch of cobblestone ahead, though she feels his trembling through his grip. It is not weakness, but awakening, the part of him that knows what it means to be hunted and what it means to resist. Oleg slows briefly, letting his palm graze a rusted iron gate. The sound is faint, but Marta recognizes it as signal. The way is narrowing. They must decide soon whether to pass openly or vanish into another layer of the city. She trusts his judgment. His silence carries more guidance than speech. The boy's steps falter again, but this time it is not fear. His eyes widen, his pupils contracting sharply. Marta follows his gaze and sees it. The faint shimmer of light across the stones, like water running though there is no stream. It is not ordinary. It is memory surfacing, a path carved by those before them, invisible to most eyes. The token at his chest has awakened it. Marta kneels, her heart beating with recognition. Do you see? She whispers. The boy nods quickly, his breath sharp. It looks like the ground is breathing. His voice trembles but carries awe. She smooths his hair back. It is the echo of those who walked before us. It shows itself when the time is right, and only to those who carry truth. He stares, his fear tempered now by wonder. Oleg steps closer, his expression calm but his eyes glinting with approval. We follow, he says simply. The first words he has spoken in hours. They align themselves with the shimmering path, each step falling into rhythm with its faint pulse. The city's silence bends around them, disguising them in plain sight. To a passerby, they are only three figures moving through empty streets, but beneath, something older guides their feet. As they walk, Marta feels the boy's trembling shift. His fear does not vanish, but it transforms, its edges softened by belonging. The shimmer pulses faintly brighter beneath his steps. As if answering him, she realizes with a chill that he is not merely seeing the path, he is carrying it forward. His presence renews it, ensures it will not vanish with fading memory. She whispers to him, "You are part of its weaving now. It follows you as much as you follow it." He glances at her, startled, but a faint pride begins to glow in his eyes. The silence of the warehouses grows heavier, as if noticing, somewhere beyond sight. A boot scrapes against stone, sharp and deliberate. The watchers are close, perhaps closer than ever. Marta feels their intent probing, hungry for cracks in the disguise, but the shimmer beneath their feet shields them, not by hiding, but by making them appear as nothing worth pursuing. A family, a locksmith, a florist, a boy, nothing more. Yet she knows the shield is not infinite. The hunter is patient, and patience has teeth. He will not relent until he forces revelation, until he sees fur where there should be skin, silver eyes where there should be brown. She feels his hunger like a second shadow, pacing them unseen. The path turns suddenly, slipping into a narrow gap between buildings. Marta guides the boy, Oleg closing behind. The shimmer pulls briefly at the entrance, then fades, leaving the lane blank once more. To anyone following, they have vanished, swallowed by stone. The boy exhales, relief trembling through him. Marta crouches, her hands on his shoulders. "Do not rejoice too loudly," she murmurs. "A door closed behind us means another waits ahead." He nods, his face solemn again. Oleg sets the bundle down for a moment, flexing his hands. His gaze lingers on Marta, then on the boy, the locksmith's eyes measuring what locks still hold and which ones may soon break. Marta feels the truth pressing around them. The shimmer path cannot always conceal, and the boy's awakening will not remain subtle. His disguise will fray, no matter how carefully they weave it. The lane bends deeper, carrying them toward another unseen threshold. The boy presses the token to his chest, his eyes brighter than before. Marta strokes his hair, her heart caught between fear and hope. The shimmer fades behind them, but within the boy it glows more fiercely, a light no hunter's wire can truly bind. Ahead, the silence thickens once more, and Marta knows the next crossing will test them in ways the path cannot soften. The lane narrows into a throat of stone, damp walls breathing the residue of forgotten rains. Marta guides the boy carefully, her hand on his back, while Oleg follows close, his steps quiet yet heavy with vigilance. The shimmer that had guided them fades entirely now, leaving only the faint scrape of boots and the sound of dripping water. The boy presses the token against his chest as though it might still glow if he wills it, but it rests silent, its warmth sinking deeper into him rather than outward into the street. The air carries another scent, sharp, metallic, like iron scraped against flint. Marta knows it at once. Hunters are near, not merely watching but moving. The silence has changed timber. It is no longer patience but pursuit. The boy's breath quickens, panic fluttering at the edge of his throat. She kneels, bringing her face close to his. "Breathe as if nothing is behind you." Fear makes the air louder. "Quiet is our shield." He nods, his lips pressed thin, and though his small chest still rises too fast, he tries. A shape breaks from the fog ahead, not the hunter himself, but one of his silent companions, broad-shouldered, his coat heavy, his face obscured by shadow. He blocks the lane with the certainty of someone who believes he has cornered prey. Oleg steps forward at once, his stance protective, though his hands remain loose at his sides. The man speaks, his voice low but sharpened by intent. "You walk where you should not." Marta keeps the boy behind her, her gaze steady. "This is only a path," she answers evenly. "We walk as anyone might." The man tilts his head, his silence heavy with disbelief. His eyes catch faint light, reflecting not curiosity but hunger. Oleg shifts his weight, a locksmith's awareness calculating distances, timing, possibilities. He does not knight, not yet, for their craft is not violence but endurance. The boy trembles, and in his fear a spark escapes. His eyes flash silver for the briefest instant, a glimmer too quick for most to notice. But the man notices, his posture stiffens, his breath sharpens. The silence cracks. "So it is true," he whispers, almost reverent. His hand drops to the coil of rope at his side, a poor echo of the hunter's wire, yet dangerous all the same. Marta pulls the boy closer, her heart steady though her blood races. She knows disguise has frayed, however briefly. The truth has glimmered, and once glimpsed, it cannot be unseen. Yet she also knows that revelation can be reshaped. She lowers her voice. calm and slow, carrying the weight of centuries. You see what you wish to see. Fog, fear, tricks of dawn. We are only what the day allows. The man falters. Doubt flickers across his face, thin but real. He wants proof, yet proof eludes him, slips from his grasp like water. He tightens his grip on the rope, but he does not move closer. His hunger wars with uncertainty, and uncertainty is their ally. Oleg takes a step forward, his voice deep and quiet. Turn back. The lane holds nothing you want. It is not threat, but command, spoken with the authority of stone. The man hesitates longer than Marta expects. His breath hitches once, then steadies. Slowly he lowers the rope. His eyes remain sharp, but he steps aside, pressing against the wall. Another time, he mutters. Another place. Marta meets his gaze without fear, then guides the boy past him, Oleg close behind. The man does not follow, though his presence clings like smoke. When they emerge from the lane, the city opens again, streets branching like veins beneath the pale wash of dawn. The boy clutches Marta's sleeve, his face pale, his chest heaving. She kneels, smoothing his hair. You did not fail, she whispers. Fear is not failure. It is a warning bell. You must learn how to let it sound without letting it break you. He nods shakily, his small jaw set with determination. The token glimmers faintly against his chest, as if in response. Oleg scans the street, his silence weighted with thought. He knows the hunter's net is tightening. Each encounter grows closer, each disguise tested more sharply. The boy's awakening cannot be hidden forever. The shimmer path will return. Yes, but only when it chooses, and the hunter's patience is deep. They move onward, blending once more into the waking city. A baker sweeps flour from his doorstep. A milk cart rattles over cobblestones. Ordinary life flows, oblivious, its rhythm strong enough to cloak extraordinary truths. Marta straightens, smoothing her coat, guiding the boy to mimic her ease. We are seen, she murmurs to him, but not known. That is our shield. He breathes deeply, trying to let her calmness anchor him. Yet as they walk, Marta cannot shake the memory of the silver flash in his eyes. It had been brief, but it was enough. The hunter's companion had seen, and though he stepped aside, he would carry that glimmer back to his master. Proof has begun to grow in their camp like fire under ash. The city hums around them, unaware, but Marta feels it in her bones. The next crossing will not be shadowed by doubt. It will demand a reckoning. And the boy, still fragile, still learning, will be asked to walk closer to the edge of his disguise than ever before. The sun lifts reluctantly above the rooftops, its pale light stretched thin, as if it too fears what lingers in the city's veins. Marta keeps her stride measured, guiding the boy and Oleg through the quieter lanes, away from the market swelling with noise. Each street hums with the ordinary bread cooling in windows, water sloshing in pails, children shouting as they chase one another, but beneath it all, the other rhythm persists. The watchers are still there. They are no longer testing from a distance. Their gaze presses closer, intent upon narrowing the circle. The boy's hand remains tight around hers, though less from panic now than from a fierce need to anchor himself. His small face is taut with questions he has not asked, his eyes carrying both the innocence of youth and the burden of something awakening beneath his skin. Marta feels it in the way his breath sometimes deepens without him knowing, how his shoulders square as if echoing a shape larger than his frame. The silver flash of his eyes in the lane had been brief, but its echo lingers in him. The disguise grows thinner. Oleka leads them toward a bridge, crossing a narrow canal. The water below moves sluggishly, reflecting the grey of the sky. He pauses briefly, studying the span, as though it were another lock to be tested. His silence carries calculation. Who waits on the other side? Who watches from beneath, where the nearest retreat lies? Marta trusts his vigilance. She has learned that his quiet is not emptiness, but a shield, a craft as exacting as her own floral disguises. The boy peers down at the water as they cross, his reflection wavering. For an instant it is not his small face he sees, but a muzzle, fur glinting silver where sunlight touches it. His breath catches, his grip tightening. Marta notices, kneels beside him mid-span. "Tell me," she murmurs, her voice low enough to belong only to him. His lips tremble. "I saw it. I saw me, but not me." She strokes his cheek steady as stone. "It is truth showing itself. Do not fear it. Reflection is only a mirror. It cannot bind you. What you choose in the waking world matters more." He nods shakily, but when he looks again, only his boyish face ripples back. Relief softens him, though not completely. The truth cannot be unseen. At the bridge's far end, a figure leans against the wall, coat collar raised. His posture is casual, but his stillness betrays him. Another watcher, his eyes flicker briefly toward them, then away, pretending disinterest. But the air thickens. Oleg slows his pace, his stance deliberate. Marta guides the boy to keep walking. Every step smooth, every breath ordinary. They pass the figure without pause. The man's gaze slides across them, lingering too long on the boy, a hunger restrained, but not absent. They do not stop. They move into another street where laundry sways between windows, and a woman sweeps dust into piles. To anyone else, it is an ordinary passage. Yet Marta feels the scrutiny clinging still, a hook embedded even as they walk on. The hunter's reach threads through the city like roots beneath soil, unseen but binding. The boy whispers as they turn a corner, his voice trembling. "Why don't we run?" Marta bends close, her tone even, almost gentle. "Running feeds pursuit. We let their hunger starve on our calm." He frowns, absorbing the lesson, though his small body still quivers with the instinct to flee. She squeezes his hand, pride and sorrow mingling in her chest. He learns too soon, yet he learns well. Oleg halts suddenly at a doorway recessed in shadow. He raises a hand, signaling pause. Marta listens. The ordinary clamour of the street continues, yet beneath it lies another sound, the faint scrape of boots moving in unison, too measured for chance. They are being followed openly now. Not shadows, not glimpses, but pursuit. Oleg's jaw tightens. He unlatches the door, gesturing them inside quickly. They enter a narrow stairwell, dust thick on the steps, the smell of oil and old wood pressing close. The boy clings to Marta, his breathing sharp. Oleg closes the door behind them, the latch catching with a sound too loud in the stillness. They climb swiftly, reaching a room beneath the eaves. Light slants through broken shutters, painting stripes across the floor. From here the city stretches beneath them. Marta moves to the window, peering out. Below, 3 men stand at the corner, their faces upturned, scanning the buildings. One of them is the same who held the rope in the lane. His expression is sharper now, certainty replacing doubt. Proof, however faint, has begun to harden in their camp. The boy sinks onto the floor, pressing the token against his chest. Marta kneels beside him, brushing sweat from his brow. "You are not the reason they hunt," she whispers. "Their hunger existed long before you. You are only what they fix it upon." He nods, but his eyes glisten, the weight too large for his small shoulders. Oleg paces the room, his silence breaking at last. We cannot keep him hidden much longer. They press harder each time, the disguise frays. His words carry neither blame nor despair, only the locksmith's pragmatism. Marta meets his gaze, her own steady. "Then we must teach him to wear it differently. Not as a mask, but as a second skin." Outside, the men remain, their patience sharpening like blades. The hunter himself is not yet in sight, but Marta feels him near. His obsession coils tighter with every moment, waiting for the disguise to collapse. She strokes the boy's hair, whispering, "Disguise is not only hiding, It is also guiding. We will show them only what keeps us free. The boy closes his eyes, clutching the token until his hand shakes. And though fear still trembles through him, a new strength stirs beneath it. Fragile, unformed but real. It is the beginning of his own choice, his own disguise, no longer borrowed but carried. Below, the watchers do not move, the city holds its breath, and Marta knows the moment is coming when silence alone will no longer suffice. The room beneath the eaves feels smaller with each passing breath, as though the walls lean inward, listening, conspiring. Marta keeps the boy close, his heartbeat quick beneath her palm, while Oleg watches the street below, his arms folded across his chest, his silence dense with calculation. The watchers remain at the corner, unmoving, their stillness more dangerous than pursuit. Patience has become their weapon. The boy lifts his face, pale in the slanted light. "They will wait forever," he whispers. Marta strokes his hair, her voice low, meant to weave calm through his trembling. "Forever belongs to us, not to them. Their hunger is strong." Yes, but hunger always tires. Ours is endurance. Still, she feels the truth pressing sharp. His disguise is fraying, and forever is not something a child can yet wear without breaking. Oleg shifts at the window, his hand brushing the sill where dust gathers thick. They will not only wait. When silence ceases to serve, they will break it. His tone holds no fear, only certainty. Marta meets his gaze and sees the same knowledge mirrored there. The hunter's net will tighten tonight. Or soon after. The boy presses the token against his chest, as though it might answer him. For a moment it warms, faintly pulsing, and he gasps. Marta leans closer. "What do you feel?" His eyes glisten, silver flickering in their depths. "It feels like it wants me to breathe with it, like it's showing me how." She nods, her heart tightening. "Then breathe as it teaches. That is no trick. That is your blood remembering." He closes his eyes, his breath deepening, slow and steady. The light around him seems to shift, softening, as though he draws the very air into rhythm. Oleg watches silently, his jaw tightening, but his eyes betray awe, even in disguise, even in this fragile form. The boy carries a pulse that belongs to something vaster. Yet below, movement breaks the stillness. Another figure joins the men at the corner, taller, leaner, his presence weighted like iron. The hunter himself has come. His gaze lifts toward the shuttered window, sharp enough to pierce walls. Marta feels the moment strike her chest. His obsession has found its mark. He knows they are here. The boy stiffens, opening his eyes, his breath catching. "He sees me," he whispers. Marta pulls him close, whispering into his hair. He sees a shadow, nothing more. He cannot hold what you do not give. But she feels the boy's trembling grow. The bond between hunter and hunted is more than sight. It is a cord strung through silence itself. Oleg closes the shutter with careful hands, his voice low. "We cannot stay." Marta nods. They must move, though the streets are netted with watchers. But motion itself can be disguised if worn properly, if carried not as flight, but as belonging. She kneels before the boy, cupping his face. "Listen to me. Tonight the air may tear with noise. You may see things in yourself you cannot yet name. Do not fear them. Disguise is not only skin, not only shadow, it is also truth, shaped gently. When it rises, you must guide it, not resist it." His eyes fill, but he nods, his small jaw clenched in determination. They descend the stair, Oleg leading, Marta close behind with the boy. The air in the stairwell feels thicker now, the weight of pursuit pressing close. Outside, dusk has begun to fall, shadows stretching long, the city softening into twilight. The men at the corner shift, straightening, and the hunter steps forward at last. His presence radiates command, his eyes fixed upon the doorway. Marta steadies the boy with her hand. "Walk," she murmurs. "Not too fast, not too slow. Walk as though the street belongs to you." They step into the fading light. Oleg to the left, Marta to the right, the boy between them. The hunter does not move aside. His gaze hooks into the boy, sharp and unrelenting. The silence cracks into sound. Boots scraping stone, breath drawn harshly. The coil of wire unwinding with metallic hiss. The men close in, narrowing the street into a snare. The boy freezes, silver flickering again in his eyes. Marta whispers urgently, "Breathe with the token. Let it shape you." He gasps, breath trembling, but then steadies, his small body aligning with a rhythm older than fear. The token pulses faintly beneath his coat, and the air thickens around them, shimmering as if heat rises from stone. The hunters falter, their steps hitching. For an instant they see not prey, but haze. Shapes blurred, their certainty slipping. Yet the hunter himself does not falter. His gaze cuts through shimmer, through disguise, fixing on the boy with terrible hunger. He steps forward, wire glinting, the silence tearing wide with the promise of violence. Oleg shifts, his body tensed, ready to strike if needed. Though violence has never been his way, Marta grips the boy's hand tightly, her heart pounding steady as a drum. "Now," she whispers, "choose your breath, choose your skin." The boy closes his eyes, inhaling deep. His trembling stills, and when he exhales, the air bends. A faint growl hums beneath his breath. Not loud, not monstrous, but enough. The hunters recoil, their certainty shaken by a sound too primal to dismiss. Even the hunter pauses, his wire taut in his hand, his eyes narrowing. The boy opens his eyes again. Silver floods them fully now. Not a flicker, but a steady glow. His disguise trembles, edges softening, truth pressing outward. Marta feels both fear and awe course through her. The moment they have avoided is arriving. The boy is stepping beyond mere concealment. And in the hunter's eyes, Marta sees it. Recognition, triumph, hunger deepened into certainty. He has seen what he craved. Yet the boy stands straighter now, his hand still in Marta's, his gaze unbroken. Disguise has cracked, but something greater begins to take its place. The street holds its breath. Twilight deepens, and the first true confrontation unfolds in silence that no ordinary disguise can mend. The street becomes a vessel of stillness, twilight thickening like liquid glass, trapping every movement within it. The hunters stand poised, uncertainty wavering at their edges, while the boy glows with a quiet radiance that cannot be mistaken for ordinary. Marta feels the tremor in his small hand, yet his spine holds straighter than ever, his breath deep, deliberate, tethered to the pulse of the token hidden at his chest. For the first time, the disguise does not cover him. It carries him, reshaping itself into something both fragile and unyielding. The hunter's wire glimmers in the dimming light, drawn taut between his hands. His eyes narrow, hunger sharpened into something crueler. Vindication. For years he has stalked shadows, gathering whispers, chasing flickers that others dismissed. And now, at last, before him stands what he has always sought. Truth bleeding through disguise. Marta sees it in his stance, the tension of obsession fulfilled. He does not yet strike, for triumph delays violence. He wishes to savor this revelation. Oleg shifts slightly, placing himself between the hunter and the boy. His stance is steady, quiet as ever, but beneath the stillness his muscles are coiled, prepared for what patience can no longer solve. Marta's heart pounds, though her voice remains soft when she leans close to the boy. Do not fear what rises. Fear feeds him, but if you breathe steady, you starve him. The boy nods faintly, silver shimmering steady in his eyes, no longer flickering but fixed. The hunter steps closer, boots grinding against the cobblestones. His wire hums as it cuts the air, the sound sharp as a blade. He speaks at last. his voice low, almost reverent. So it is true. You wear skin like cloth. But beneath his words cut off as the boy exhales, the sound is not human, not entirely. A growl trembles through the air, subtle but unmistakable, vibrating through stone and bone alike. The men flanking the hunter recoil slightly, their certainty freeing. They had been told stories, trained in rituals, but hearing the sound makes myth spill into reality. And reality is heavier than belief. Yet the hunter himself does not falter. His eyes blaze with a mixture of triumph and need. He raises the wire higher, its shimmer reflecting the boy's silver gaze. Marta steps forward, her hand still clasping the boy's. Her voice carries calm, though her chest burns. You see only what you demand to see, a child, breathing, walking. Your hunger paints the rest. But she knows her words are only a veil. The truth has bled through too brightly to be contained. The boy trembles, torn between fear and something deeper, an instinct pushing upward, aching to be free. He feels it in his chest, in his teeth, in his skin, as if the air itself strains against his disguise. He whispers, his voice breaking. I cannot hold it. Marta bends close, her forehead brushing his. You do not hold it. You guide it. Let it move through you like breath, not burst from you like flame. The hunter steps forward again, wire taut. The boy inhales sharply, then releases a sound half cry, half growl, that makes the very air throb. For an instant his outline wavers, fur glimmering through skin, shadow deepening his small frame into something older, more primal. The men stagger back, fear carving their faces. Even the hunter halts, his triumph edged now with caution. Oleg's voice breaks the silence, low but commanding. Enough. It is not directed at the boy, but at the moment itself, at the balance teetering too close to collapse. He steps forward, his presence a barrier, his eyes locked on the hunter. You cannot bind what does not wish to be bound. You know this. His tone is steady, his words carved with the precision of locks and keys. The hunter's jaw tightens. For the first time, doubt flickers in his gaze. Yet obsession is a fire that doubt cannot quench. He lowers the wire slightly, not in surrender but in calculation. His voice drops to a whisper sharp as steel. He cannot hide forever. Disguise cannot shield what grows brighter with each breath. Marta gathers the boy against her, her hand pressed to his heart, feeling its thunder. Then we will teach him to shine without breaking, she murmurs, more to him than to the hunter. Her calm steadies him, his trembling easing, though the silver in his eyes remains. It is not retreating now, it is becoming. The hunter steps back, his men uncertain beside him. He does not strike tonight, not yet. He knows patience. He knows the scent of certainty once caught will never be lost. With a final glance, heavy with promise, he withdraws into the fog, his wire coiling like a serpent in his hand. The men follow reluctantly, their eyes flicking with unease toward the boy. Silence returns to the street. Heavy but no longer fragile, Marta exhales, her grip on the boy softening, her body trembling only after the danger has receded. Oleg remains still, watching the fog where the hunter vanished, his eyes narrow, his silence deeper than ever. The boy leans against Marta, exhausted, his breath uneven. He will come back, he whispers. Marta strokes his hair gently, her voice soft. Yes, but each time he comes, you will be stronger. Not because you hide, but because you learn who you are. His eyes close, silver flickering beneath his lids, and he drifts into weary half-sleep, his small body curled against her. Oleg finally turns from the fog, his voice grave. We bought only a little time. Marta meets his gaze, her own steady. A little time is enough. Time is where endurance lives. The night folds around them, deeper now, carrying both relief and foreboding. The boy sleeps, yet in his breath lies a rhythm older than silence, older than fear, Marta knows the disguise has cracked beyond repair, but perhaps it is no longer disguise at all. Perhaps it is transformation beginning. And somewhere in the fog, the hunter smiles, patient, certain, preparing for the night, when shadows alone will not suffice. Night presses fully now, heavy as velvet draped across the city, each alley darkened into secrecy. Marta and Oleg move with measured calm, guiding the boy through twisting lanes, away from the square where the hunter's shadow lingered thick. The boy sleeps lightly against Marta's shoulder, his breaths uneven, silver still glimmering faintly behind his closed lids. He dreams, she knows, not of childish play but of awakenings too vast for his small frame to carry with ease. Oleg leads them into a courtyard overgrown with ivy, its fountain long dry, its stones cracked but sheltering. They settle in the shadow of a wall. Out of sight, the boy cushioned against Marta's coat, she strokes his hair, humming under her breath. Not a song of human memory, but one of older rhythm, a lull that belonged to forests before streets were laid. His breathing steadies, though the pulse of something other still hums beneath his skin. Oleg kneels nearby, his eyes fixed on the gate. His silence is taut, but Marta senses words pressing behind it. At last he speaks, low and grave. He cannot remain hidden much longer. What stirred tonight will not return to sleep. The hunter will see to that. Marta meets his gaze, her own calm unwavering. Then we do not hide. We teach him what it means to walk among them, not as shadow, but as truth shaped into silence. Oleg frowns, though not in disagreement. Truth is dangerous. It draws not only hunters but fear from those who would otherwise pass him by. She sighs, smoothing the boy's hair. Fear is already here. We cannot erase it by shrinking, only by showing him how to carry it without breaking. The courtyard breathes around them, leaves shifting faintly in night air. From somewhere distant, a wolf's cry rises, long and mournful, threading through the city like smoke. The boy stirs, his eyes fluttering open. He whispers, drowsy yet urgent, "I hear them." Marta nods softly. They are calling, not to warn, but to remind you, you are not alone. His gaze lingers on her, wide, luminous. Then he buries his face against her shoulder, comforted but restless. Silence stretches, thick with waiting. Then, faintly, boots scrape stone beyond the gate. Oleg tenses, his hand brushing the knife at his belt, not for aggression, but as locksmith's last resort. Marta rises slowly, the boy still clutched to her, her body shielding him. Shadows gather, figures slipping into the courtyard with deliberate steps. At their center, the hunter. His wire glints faintly in the moonlight, uncoiled like a living serpent, patient and deadly. He pauses, surveying the scene. His gaze lands on the boy, and triumph curves his mouth into something near a smile. "No more disguises," he murmurs. His voice carries the weight of certainty, of obsession fulfilled. The men flank him, circling slowly, their eyes flickering with unease but bound by loyalty. Marta steps forward, her posture calm though her heart pounds. You see only what hunger allows. A child, weary with dreams, nothing more. The hunter tilts his head, eyes narrowing. Dreams are the truest form of all. In sleep, masks fall. His wire hums as he tightens his grip. And I have seen enough. The boy stirs fully now, lifting his head. His silver eyes glow steady, no longer flickering, no longer shy. He looks at the hunter not with fear alone, but with something harder, a recognition, a refusal. The token at his chest pulses brightly, its warmth visible even through fabric. The air itself shifts, as though the courtyard inhales. Oleg steps beside Marta, his presence a shield. His voice is quiet, carved with precision. You believe wire can bind what was never yours to hold. You are wrong. The hunter's gaze flickers briefly toward him, but obsession pulls it back to the boy. He cannot disguise himself forever, and when disguise fails, chains are all that remain. The boy stands now, slipping from Marta's arms, his small shoulders squared. His breath deepens, his chest rising with rhythm older than the city itself. He speaks softly, but his words carry clear as silver bells. I am not your chain. I am not your proof. His voice trembles, but the truth in it steadies the air. The hunters falter, shifting uneasily, their certainty cracking. They had expected a beast to snarl, not a child to speak with calm shaped from fear. Yet the hunter does not waver. His wire gleams, his hunger sharpened. He steps closer, ready to strike. Marta feels the boy's trembling, but she also feels the steadiness growing beneath it. He is no longer simply hiding. He is choosing. The air quivers, silver light, threading faintly through the ivy, through the cracks in stone, as though the world itself bends to echo him. The hunter halts mid-step, his gaze narrowing. For the first time, his hunger edges toward uncertainty. He has sought a beast, but before him stands something neither beast nor child alone, but a weaving of both, disguised yet undeniable. The courtyard holds its breath, ivy rustling softly, moonlight brightening. The boy inhales deeply, silver flooding his gaze, his voice low but unyielding. You may look, but you will never see me fully. That is my strength. The hunter grips his wire tighter, his obsession pulling him forward once more. But Marta senses the air shifting towards something greater, something that cannot be disguised much longer. The courtyard shimmers with tension, as if the air itself holds its breath, waiting for the first strike that will decide whether silence fractures into chaos. The boy stands at the center, silver eyes unwavering, his chest rising with deliberate rhythm, the token's pulse aligned to his breath. Marta feels his small hand twitch at his side, not in retreat but in readiness. It is no longer disguise he wears, it is presence, fragile yet undeniable, and it makes the night tremble. The hunter advances, his wire glinting, stretched taut between his hands. His men hover behind him, their steps uncertain, caught between loyalty and fear of what they have just glimpsed. The boy's outline flickers faintly, shadow deepening his frame into something more than child, fur shimmering at the edges before fading again into skin. It is not full transformation, not yet, but a threshold crossed. The hunters murmur, unease breaking their silence, but the hunter's gaze burns with fixation. Marta steps closer, her body angled protectively, though she knows the boy's strength now exceeds the shield she can provide. This is not your truth to take, she says softly, her words carrying calm that slices sharper than threat. The hunter tilts his head, his expression sharpened by triumph. Truth cannot be hidden forever. When light breaks through, chains are what follow. His wire hums, singing of capture, of obsession honed into ritual. Olek shifts, his eyes narrow, his stance firm as stone. His silence has always been shield, but tonight it hardens into defiance. He speaks at last, his voice carved from iron. You believe chains are power, but chains rust, and what they bind learns to endure. His words cut clean, but the hunter only tightens his grip, unwilling to hear wisdom over hunger. The boy inhales, his body trembling, as though two worlds wrestle within him. He feels the beast pressing, teeth and fur and strength yearning to spill free, while the child clings to Marta's hand, afraid of becoming something unrecognizable. I can't choose, he whispers, his voice breaking, silver shimmering at the edges of his skin. Marta kneels, her forehead against his, her voice steady. You do not need to choose. You are both. You are disguise and truth together. That is what makes you whole. The hunter lunges, wire flashing in the dim light. But before steel can close, the boy exhales with a sound that shakes the courtyard. It is no longer cry nor growl, but something in between, an ancient tone that vibrates through stone, through ivy, through bone. His eyes blaze silver, his form rippling with glimpses of fur and claw, yet still held in shape by will. The wire freezes inches from his chest, the hunter's hands trembling against the force pressing outward. The men stagger back, some clutching their ears as though the sound itself tears at them. Fear carves lines across their faces, shattering their certainty. One drops his rope, another mutters a prayer. They had expected flesh to bind, not presence to withstand. The boy stands taller now, his voice carrying through the air without words, a resonance that makes even the night hesitate. The hunter grits his teeth, forcing the wire forward, but it falters, meeting not resistance of body, but resistance of being. He stares into the boy's silver gaze, and for the first time uncertainty cracks his hunger. It is not fear, not yet, but the recognition that chains cannot hold what is both shadow and light, beast and child. His breath hitches, his wire slackening slightly. Marta rises beside the boy, her voice low, firm and calm. You cannot bind what was never meant to be yours. Look at him. He is not your proof. He is not your possession. He is more than your hunger. Oleg steps forward too, his silence solid, his stance unmovable, forming a wall between obsession and awakening. The boy breathes again, silver light pulsing outward, softer now but steady, wrapping the courtyard in a veil that blurs edges, softens outlines. To outside eyes it is only shadow, only fog. To those within, it is presence made visible, the weaving of disguise and truth into something stronger than both. The hunters falter further, their will fraying. Only the hunter himself stands firm, though his hands shake on the wire. His voice drops, bitter but trembling. You will slip. You cannot walk both paths forever, and when you fall, I will be there. His words echo obsession, but beneath them lies the first hint of fear. The boy lowers his gaze slightly, not in submission but in calm acceptance. You may wait, he says quietly, his voice carrying with steady clarity, but waiting does not make you right. It only makes you hungry. Silence falls heavy. The hunter stares at him, wire slack at last, his face carved with a mixture of rage, awe, and disbelief. He steps back, motioning his men to retreat. They obey quickly, relief washing their faces as they vanish into the fog. The hunter lingers one moment longer, his gaze searing, then withdraws, his figure dissolving into shadow. The courtyard exhales. Ivy rustles, moonlight softens, the stones loosen their tension. The boy sags against Marta, his strength spent, his disguise trembling but intact. She gathers him close, her arms steady, her heart fierce with both pride and sorrow. You walk through it, she whispers, not hidden, not broken, whole. Oleg kneels beside them, his silence warm now, his eyes soft as he studies the boy. He will return, he says quietly. Marta nods. Yes, but so will we, and each time the boy will not be less. He will be more. Above them, the moon climbs higher, silver spreading across the rooftops. The boy closes his eyes, drifting into weary sleep, his breath still aligned with the token's pulse. The night holds them in fragile peace, but Marta feels the echo of the hunter's gaze lingering still. The battle has not ended, it has only shifted, and when it returns, disguise alone will no longer be enough. The boy will need to step into truth fully, and the world itself must decide whether to see him as danger or as wonder. The courtyard lies hushed after the hunter's retreat, its ivy and broken stones holding the memory of silver light, like an afterimage burned into the air. Marta keeps the boy close, his breath uneven against her shoulder, while Oleg watches the gate with patient eyes, though silence reigns. It is not peace, it is a pause, the hush of the world reordering itself after revelation. The boy stirs, his lashes fluttering open. Silver still lingers faintly in his gaze, though dulled by weariness. He looks at Marta, confusion trembling through his small voice. Did I become? She strokes his cheek gently. You became what you already are. It is no longer hiding, it is walking between. He frowns slightly, trying to grasp her meaning, but then leans into her touch, soothed by the certainty in her tone. Olek shifts beside them, his silence breaking at last. The city will not forget what it glimpsed. Hunters are not the only ones who watch. Whispers travel faster than boots. Marta nods, her lips tightening. Yes, fear travels swiftly, but so does wonder. Both will spread, and he will be measured against them.
The boy listens, his small hands twisting in his lap.
If they fear me, will they chase me too?
His voice cracks, fragile with the weight of his own question. Marta presses her forehead to his. Some may, but others will see strength, not threat. The world has always been divided by how it chooses to see. Your task is not to erase fear, but to walk steady through it.
He nods, swallowing hard, his resolve flickering but real. The token at his chest pulses faintly, as though echoing his acceptance. Marta feels it too, a rhythm deepening, binding him more firmly to his path. The courtyard air shifts. A wind stirs, carrying scents of earth and iron, of damp moss and faint ash. Marta rises slowly, recognizing it as more than chance. The elders of the cavern had whispered of such moments, when the world itself tilts to acknowledge a crossing. Oleg feels it too. His jaw tightens, his eyes narrowing, as he glances toward the moonlit rooftops. Others will come, not only hunters, and indeed from the shadow of an archway figures emerge not with wire or rope, but cloaked in silence and memory. Their eyes glimmer softly, not with hunger but with kinship. The cloaked woman who once guided them from the cavern steps forward, her lantern dim to a coal-like glow. "We felt the breaking," she says softly. Her gaze rests on the boy, and a faint smile stirs her lips. "You have walked through fear into presence." The boy flushes, pressing against Marta, uncertain, but the woman kneels, lowering her lantern, so its faint glow touches his face. "Do not be ashamed. The disguise is not gone. It has only changed. You wear it now as choice, not as burden." Marta watches the boy's eyes widen, awe softening his fear. She feels relief mingled with sorrow. Relief because others will help bear the weight. Sorrow because the boy's path is no longer theirs alone. The woman rises, turning to Marta and Oleg. The hunter's obsession grows, but so too does the boy's truth. The balance must be held, or the city will fracture beneath it. You cannot carry this alone. Oleg's silence answers first, his shoulders easing as though he has expected this moment. Marta nods slowly, her grip on the boy tightening. "Then guide us, but do not take him from us. His path must remain his own." The woman inclines her head. "We do not take, we walk alongside. The world is shifting, and he is at its center, though he is still only a child." The boy listens intently, though much slips beyond his grasp. What he understands is the feeling in their voices, that he is no longer a shadow to be hidden, but a flame to be carried carefully. His chest swells, uncertain but proud, as if the silver in his blood answers silently. Above them, the moonlight brightens, washing the courtyard in pale clarity. The ivy shimmers faintly, as though touched by unseen hands. Marta feels the weight of what is coming, a new order, born not of silence but of choice. The hunter will not relent, but neither will the presence that now gathers around the boy. The cloaked woman gestures softly. "Come." There are places where truth can breathe without binding, where fear cannot follow so easily. Marta exchanges a glance with Oleg. His silence grants consent, though his eyes remain watchful. She gathers the boy close, whispering, "We go not to hide, but to grow." The boy nods, his small hand gripping hers firmly. Together they step from the courtyard into streets washed in silver light. The city feels different now, its silence broken, its shadows alive with possibility, and though the hunter lingers somewhere in that darkness, His wire coiled and his hunger unspent, the boy no longer walks only as quarry, he walks as presence. His disguise no longer mask but mantle. The world itself bends faintly around him, whispering of change that cannot be undone. The night carries them forward, and Marta feels it deep in her bones. They are no longer merely fleeing. They are stepping into the reordering of the world. The streets wind beneath them like veins of a great, dreaming body, silver light streaming across cobblestones as though the city itself has turned into a living map. Marta walks with the boy's hand firm in hers, Oleg beside them, while the cloaked woman leads, her lantern glowing like an ember of memory. Shadows draw back as they pass, not in fear but in quiet recognition, as though they know something sacred is being carried through them. The boy breathes deeply, his chest rising with the rhythm of the token, the night air filling him with scents once hidden, iron from distant gates, smoke from silent chimneys, the faint musk of damp fur where no animals should be. Each sensation feels like another thread woven into his being. It is louder now, he whispers, voice trembling but awed. Marta strokes his hair. That is because you are no longer only listening. You are speaking back. The woman leads them toward an old quarter where ivy swallows arches and time itself lingers in slow decay. There, she pauses at a gate so overgrown it seems almost part of the earth. She touches it gently, and the vines loosen, curling aside as though yielding to an old covenant. Beyond lies a garden bathed in moonlight, its soil rich, its trees twisting as if grown from dreams rather than seeds. The air hums faintly, carrying neither fear nor hunger, only the quiet weight of presence. The boy steps inside, his eyes wide. He feels the earth beneath his feet shift in recognition, as though it knows what he carries. From the trees, others emerge, figures cloaked but with glimmers in their eyes that match his silver, some old, their forms heavy with years of disguise, others young, still learning to wear shadow without trembling. They gather silently, their gazes fixed upon him, not with suspicion but with reverence. Marta holds him close, her heart pounding. She had guessed at their existence, whispered of by elders who spoke of scattered kin walking unseen. Yet to see them now feels like stepping into a hidden chapter of the world. Oleg bows his head slightly, acknowledging kinship unspoken. The boy, however, feels only a strange mixture of wonder and fear. He whispers, "Are they like me?" The woman kneels before him, her lantern held low. "They are paths you might take. Some found peace in silence, others in defiance. Each carries both beast and disguise, and now they look to you, because you walked through fear and did not shatter." The boy flushes, unease tightening his shoulders. "But I am only small." A cloaked elder steps forward, his voice slow and deep. Small does not mean less. Fire begins with ember, rivers with drops. You are not weight because of size. You are weight because you chose not to break. Marta's hand tightens on his, pride swelling in her chest. She sees in their faces not demand but recognition. They do not seek to crown him, but to walk alongside him, as the woman had promised. Still, she feels the hunter's shadow in her mind, his words like a thorn that will not release. She wonders how long before whispers of this gathering reach him, how long before his obsession drives him to tear apart not just disguise but the very soil of this sanctuary. The cloaked woman seems to sense her thought. "He will come," she says, her voice calm yet heavy. But by then the boy will not be only quarry, he will be voice. And when the world hears it, it must decide whether to chase or to follow. The boy listens, his hand trembling in Marta's. He does not fully understand, yet he feels the weight of eyes upon him, the quiet pulse of kinship in the air. He thinks of the hunter's wire, sharp and unyielding, and of the way it faltered when he let silver fill him. He remembers fear, but he also remembers standing, whole. That memory settles in him like root taking hold. The garden hums, the moon pouring silver upon them. One by one, The cloaked figures bow their heads, not in subjugation but in acknowledgement, as though to mark that his presence has entered their circle. The boy shifts, uncomfortable yet proud, his small shoulders bearing more than he had ever imagined. Marta kisses the top of his head, her whisper warm. "You are not alone now." Oleg steps closer, placing his hand on the boy's back. His silence speaks volumes, carrying steadiness, carrying faith. The boy straightens, his chest rising, the token glowing faintly at his heart. Around them, the cloaked figures lift their lanterns, each dim but steady, forming a constellation of embers in the dark. The night deepens, carrying their breath into the hush of waiting. Somewhere beyond, in streets tangled with shadow, the hunter sharpens his wire, his obsession growing colder, sharper, more dangerous. But here, in the sanctuary of ivy and silver, the boy feels for the first time not hunted, but seen. And though dawn has not yet broken, Marta senses that when it does, the city itself will begin to shift. Not because chains have been forged, but because truth, however disguised, has stepped into the open air. The garden holds them in its quiet embrace, lanterns like constellations spread among the cloaked figures, each flicker a heartbeat echoing against the silver night. The boy stands among them, the token at his chest, pulsing with steady rhythm, as though his small body now beats in time with something older than stone or shadow. Marta watches, her hand still clasping his, though she feels him shifting, no longer clinging, but anchoring himself. Oleg remains near, his silence like a shield drawn not from duty alone, but from faith in what the boy is becoming. The cloaked elder steps forward, his staff carved with patterns of wolf and moon. He raises it gently, its wood catching the pale light, and speaks in a voice that ripples with age. Long have we carried silence as our only refuge. Long have we let disguise be our shield, yet every shield wears thin. Tonight a new path trembles open, walked by one who did not shatter when fear struck. We mark it not as prophecy, but as presence. His words settle like dew upon the gathered, each listening as if to their own buried truths. The boy lowers his gaze, his cheeks warm. He feels the weight of their eyes, not as burden, but as gravity pulling him into a shape he had not known he could take. He whispers, almost too softly, "I do not know how to be what you see." Marta kneels, her eyes level with his, voice soft but firm. "You are not asked to perform. You are asked to live, without hiding what you are. That is enough." The cloaked woman lifts her lantern, its ember flaring faintly brighter. The hunters will come again. The city will waver, torn between fear and wonder. But disguise is no longer prison. It has become choice. That choice, boy, is yours, to step forward when needed, and to remain unseen when the world cannot yet bear the sight. Both are power, not weakness. Her words calm him, like balm upon raw nerves. He nods, the silver in his eyes glowing faint but steady. Around him, the cloaked figures bow their heads in agreement, a quiet chorus of acknowledgement. The boy stands taller, though still small, his chest rising with steady breath. The garden seems to breathe with him, branches swaying without wind, soil humming beneath his feet. Yet even in this sanctuary, Marta feels the ripple of threat, as if the hunter's shadow lingers at the garden's edge. Her heart tightens, remembering his words, his hunger sharpened into obsession. She knows peace will not hold long. The elder seems to sense it too, for his voice deepens. The wire will return, sharper and more desperate. But chains cannot bind what walks in both worlds. When the hunter comes, he will not face a child. He will face a presence he cannot name. The boy shivers, but Marta presses her hand against his heart, over the token, and when that moment comes, you will not be alone. Oleg places his hand upon the boy's shoulder, silent but steady, his gaze locked on the horizon. A hush falls, broken only by the faint stir of ivy. The moon glows fuller, spilling silver as though the heavens lean closer to witness. One by one, the cloaked figures lift their lanterns higher, their light weaving together into a dome of soft glow that shields the garden from the outer dark. The boy looks up, awe widening his eyes. "It is like the stars are closer," he murmurs. The elder nods. They bow to what awakens. The night deepens, carrying weight of promise and threat alike. Marta feels the shift in her bones. The reordering has begun. The hunter's gaze, though unseen, presses closer, drawn by whispers that cannot be contained. The boy's path narrows into clarity, though still lined with shadows. She whispers to herself, a prayer carried on the night air, "Let him walk it whole." The boy breathes in, the token glowing brighter with each inhale. Around him, the cloaked kin murmur blessings in tongues older than stone, their voices weaving with the rustle of leaves, with the pulse of earth itself. Marta closes her eyes, letting the sound wrap around her. It is not lullaby, not hymn, it is presence, reminding her that disguise and truth have never been opposites, but mirrors facing one another. When she opens her eyes, the boy is watching her, silver steady in his gaze. He does not smile, but his expression holds something firmer, resolve shaped from fear, wonder, and the memory of standing against wire and hunger. She presses her hand to his cheek. "You are ready," she whispers. He nods, though neither of them fully knows for what. The lanterns dim again, their glow settling into embers. The cloaked figures fade back into the garden's shadows, leaving only the woman, the elder, Marta, Oleg, and the boy at its heart. The elder taps his staff lightly against the earth. "Go, walk the city, not as hunted, not as hidden, but as what you are. The night will test you, the dawn will weigh you, and the world will bend around your steps." Marta gathers the boy close, though she feels his weight pulling forward, no longer clinging but leading. Together they step back through the vine gate, which seals silently behind them, leaving only the memory of lantern constellations glowing faint in their minds. The city lies before them again, restless, half asleep, caught between silence and awakening. The boy breathes, silver light flickering in his eyes, and Marta knows the next time the hunter comes, disguise alone will not suffice. The truth will step into the open, and the world will be forced to see. The city sleeps uneasily beneath the moon, its roofs silvered, its streets veiled in mist that coils like breath exhaled by stone. Marta walks with the boy at her side, Oleg close behind, their steps measured, their silence thick with knowing. They have left the sanctuary of the garden carrying its ember light within them, but the air around them hums with a different weight now, heavier, sharper, as though the hunter's shadow has settled upon the city entire. The boy feels it most keenly. Each corner, each alley, each doorway seems to whisper, not with the curiosity of those who would glimpse wonder, but with the suspicion of eyes waiting to accuse. His disguise holds skin, hair, breath steady, but within, silver thrums louder, aching to spill forward. He clenches Marta's hand, uncertain whether to resist or release. She leans close, her voice low. "Do not fear the sound within you. Fear only silence that denies it." Her words sink into him, and though fear still gnaws, he straightens slightly as though the night itself listens. From the far end of the square, movement stirs. Figures emerge, not cloaked kin, but men bearing lanterns. Their glow harsh, their faces grim. They do not carry wire openly, but the intent glimmers sharp in their eyes. At their center, the hunter steps forward, his coil of chain glinting like a serpent, ready to strike. His voice carries across the mist, steady, cold. You thought to hide him in shadows and gardens, but that seeps through soil. The city murmurs of silver. The world is ready to see, and I will be the one to show it. The boy trembles, his chest rising fast, the token beating in frantic rhythm. Marta holds him close, whispering fiercely, "He does not own your truth. It is not his to reveal." yet she feels his fear, the weight of the hunter's obsession pressing down like a net. Oleg steps forward, his silence breaking into words carved like stone. Chains reveal nothing but the hunger of the one who wields them. Truth does not bend to wire. The hunter sneers, but his hands shake faintly as he raises the chain. Around him, his men glance uneasily at the boy, as though recalling the night when silver light forced them back. Some falter, but the hunter tightens his grip, unwilling to yield to doubt. The boy inhales sharply, his breath trembling. He remembers the sanctuary, the lantern constellations, the kin who bowed not in fear but in reverence. He remembers Marta's voice, Oleg's steadiness, the elder's words disguised as choice, not prison. He closes his eyes, letting those echoes steady him. When they open again, silver gleams, not in wild surge, but in calm radiance. His skin ripples faintly, his outline shimmering, yet his form holds. He steps forward, small but unbroken, his gaze fixed on the hunter. The square seems to hold its breath. Lanterns flicker, mist coils tighter. The hunter falters, his chain trembling in his hands, meeting not a beast but a boy who refuses to bend. "You cannot be both," he spits, desperation bleeding through his rage. "You will fall one way or the other, beast or disguise. There is no middle." The boy shakes his head slowly. His voice is soft, but it carries threaded with silver resonance. "I am both. That is why you cannot bind me." The words ripple through the square, settling into the bones of stone, the whispers of ivy, the breath of those watching. The hunter staggers back a step, his certainty fracturing. Around him, his men lower their lanterns, their eyes darting between fear and awe. Marta feels tears sting her eyes, pride burning through her chest as she whispers, "Yes, speak it." The boy lifts his chin, silver light steady in his gaze. The chain in the hunter's hands loosens, falling slack, its weight suddenly useless against presence that does not divide itself. The mist swirls, silver threads weaving through it, cloaking the boy not in concealment but in radiance. For the first time, disguise and truth stand together, indistinguishable, inseparable. The hunter's face twists, caught between fury and terror. His voice cracks. "The world will not accept you. It will hunt you until you break." The boy does not flinch. "Then let the world see me, unbroken." A hush spreads, deeper than silence, as if the city itself bends to listen. Marta grips his hand, her heart fierce. Oleg's stance hardens, ready should the hunter lunge. But something in the air has shifted, the balance tipping, the reordering beginning. The hunter staggers back, his men retreating with him, their fear outweighing obedience. Yet his eyes burn still, promising return, promising chains yet to come. He fades into the mist, leaving only his hunger echoing in the square. The boy exhales, his glow softening but not vanishing. Marta gathers him close, whispering, "You did not hide, you did not break." He leans into her embrace, weary but steady, the token at his chest pulsing with calm rhythm. Above them the moon spills brighter light, silver drenching the square as though in quiet blessing. The city shivers, its silence cracking, its whispers swelling. Marta feels it. The world has been altered. The hunter will return, but the boy has already changed the ground upon which he stands. And in that quiet, she knows dawn is not far, and with it the choice of how the world will see him. The night folds slowly toward dawn, the city suspended between breath and exhale, as though it too waits to see what shape it will wear when the sun lifts. Marta holds the boy close, though he is no longer only sheltered by her arms. His presence stretches beyond the smallness of his frame, silver threading through shadow and silence alike, weaving both disguise and truth into one seamless garment. Oleg stands beside them, his gaze steady upon the empty streets where the hunter had vanished. Though he knows absence does not mean defeat. The boy's breath slows, his chest rising in calm rhythm. the token at his heart glowing faint but constant. He turns his face upward, eyes reflecting the pale roundness of the moon. It feels different, he whispers, not with fear but with quiet awe. Marta strokes his hair, her voice hushed. It is different. You have stepped into yourself, and the world cannot help but shift around that. The mist begins to thin, curling into nothing as the horizon pales. The first faint traces of dawn stretch across the rooftops, pink and gold brushing against silver. In that mingling of night and morning, disguise and truth find reflection. The boy watches, his gaze wide, as if seeing not only the colours but the meaning beneath them, that nothing ever lives in only one form, that shadows and light are threads of the same fabric. The garden's memory lingers in him, lanterns like stars, kin who bowed not to crown him, but to recognize him. Their faith rests upon him still, not as burden but as quiet company, reminding him he is part of a tapestry larger than fear. He touches the token, his small fingers brushing its cool surface, and feels how it beats in time with his heart. It is not talisman, not prison, but a mirror of his choice to walk both paths without breaking. Olek shifts, his voice low. The hunter will come again. Hunger never sleeps. The boy nods, his silver gaze calm. Then let him come. He will find no quarry. He will find me. His words ripple into the dawn air, gentle yet unyielding, as though they root themselves in the stones beneath their feet. Marta feels her heart swell with sorrow and pride interwoven. The ache of knowing the path ahead will hold struggle, yet also the fierce certainty that he is no longer bound by hiding. The city begins to stir. Windows creak open, footsteps echo faintly in alleys, voices rise with the day's first needs. Marta watches the people move, unaware of what unfolded in their night, unaware of silver that shimmered at their very doorstep. She wonders how long it will be before whispers grow into stories, before fear or wonder takes hold. She knows both will come, for the world cannot encounter truth without dividing over it. Yet she also knows disguise is no longer silence. It is choice, wielded like a cloak worn with dignity. The boy steps forward, small feet striking the stones softly, as though marking a new rhythm for the city itself. He does not shrink beneath the waking world. He walks into it, shoulders lifted, gaze steady. The silver in his eyes flickers, then softens, blending again with the innocence of a child, but the glow remains beneath, unextinguished. Marta and Olek follow, their presence anchoring him, but they no longer walk ahead of him. He leads, even if he does not realize it, even if he still feels the tremor of fear in his chest. The path is his now, not to escape, but to shape. The sun breaks finally, spilling gold across rooftops, dissolving the lust of the mist. The boy pauses, his hand tightening around Marta's. He gazes into the light, then down at his own shadow stretching long across the stones. For a moment he sees it ripple, fur, claw, then hand again. He smiles faintly, not in fear but in recognition. Both truths stand together, neither demanding to erase the other. Marta breathes deeply, her chest easing as though a weight long carried has softened. Olek lays his hand upon the boy's shoulder, his silence steady and sure. None of them speak, for words would only fracture the stillness of what has settled. The city, the dawn, the boy, all hold together in one delicate moment of balance. And within that balance lies the quiet answer to the question that had haunted them. Not whether the world could accept him, but whether he could accept himself. The boy closes his eyes, exhales, and in that breath, disguises and truth cease to wrestle. They simply are. The hunter will return, the world will waver, but the boy will no longer tremble in the space between. He walks both, unbroken, and by doing so teaches the world a new way to see. The dawn lifts fully, the city waking into its ordinary clamour, yet beneath its rhythm lies a new pulse, subtle but steady, silver woven into stone, disguise woven into choice, truth woven into breath, and in that weaving, The werewolf is no longer myth, no longer shadow, but presence walking quietly among us. Marta clasps his hand once more, and together they step forward into the living day, carrying the silver of the night within them. The story closes not with chains nor with concealment, but with quiet belonging, and the world, whether it knows or not, has already begun to change.